Hey, everybody. Welcome. I think we're live. I think we're ready to go. It's good to be here. I have a good feeling about today's session. I feel like some good things are going to happen. I've had a good feeling throughout the day about this. So let's head over to chat and let's say hello to some folks who are coming in. Let's say hello. Hey, everybody. Looks like Dirty Ketchup was the winner today. Nice. Welcome. Hey, Katie Cat. Welcome back. Hi, Julian. Welcome. Glad y'all are here. Hello. Hello. Obi, you're here. Hey, buddy. I got your email, actually, bro. And I don't know if you ever got my reply. You sent me a note, an email. Well, let's see. It was probably about 10 days ago, 14 days ago. And I responded with probably about a page. And I never heard back from you. So I figured it was all cool. So I don't know what happened, but it's good to see you. I'm glad that you're here. Look at this. Nice. Well done. Evan Almighty Revenge. Very good. Twilight Mist. I can finally pronounce your name when I first see it. Hello. Welcome. Hi, Valerie. Hi, Tina. I've got great announcements for you guys today. I think you guys will be excited about what's coming up. And this week, I was doing my studies. And when I got done with the first slide, it referred to, let's see here. Where's my media assets? Here. I'm not starting yet. I'm going to stay in chat, but I was in my deal and I saw that word right there on the left right there that says Phoenicians. And I thought to myself, there's a slide I'm going to do that introduces them. And I thought to myself, I haven't really covered anything about that. And that's a essential component, or very little. And the Phoenicians are an essential component to understanding the KM. So we're going to be talking about that today. And I'm excited. And we've got time to do it now that we're starting at 5. I'm going to go back to chat. Dude, Scotland, yes. Hi, James. Yes. I love hearing from people across the pond. It's fantastic. Hi, Christopher. Yeah, I got your response, bro. I got your response, and I had covered the material in the email I'd sent. I don't think you got it. I think I'm going to resend it to you. It's the end, though. No, it's not the end. It's not the end. Hi, Rosa. Hello, Slime Ball. Hi, Craig. Thanks for your encouraging note this week. I appreciate it very much. Thank you very much. And Craig bought my book. Craig bought my book today, or this week. So it's really cool. Oh my goodness. I am so glad I thought of that. Okay, so I've been getting a lot of emails from people that want me to read my book. And I'm happy to do that. Okay, you guys need to know this. I don't have an agenda for you guys. I'm not trying to steer you anywhere. I'm a voice box. I'm a resonating board, okay? I'm not coming into this with an agenda or like what I want to do with, for, or against, or whatever you. I'm here to serve. I'm here to help. I'm here to resonate. That's why I'm here. So if what I'm doing right now in astrotheology isn't resonating with you guys, or if you're like, you know what, I've heard enough about that stuff, I'd rather get more into some psychology and leaving religion, leaving Christianity, and that kind of thing. And if that's what you want to do, tell me. Tell me. I'm not married to this astrotheology thing. I don't hold really anything in life very tightly. So if you guys want to bail on the astrotheology and you want me to read my book and go through that, I can. I totally can. It's not a problem. It's not a problem. I mean, I have probably 300 or 400 slides that I've made over the years that I've never presented. I actually have the God Eaters 4, A, B, C, D, and E, which would be 5 and 6, already done. I have my my nature series on the singularity. It's done. In fact, I started my lives the very week I was going to present this whole idea of how to relate to oneness, this whole idea of how to, which is an oxymoron, a moronic thing to say, but this whole idea of oneness, the singularity. And I finished the whole talk. I have it totally done. And I just never, sorry, I'm getting the camera right here. I just never got around to doing it. And so, like I showed you guys, here, I'll show you. Let's see, media assets. Here, look. Here. Sorry. This. Okay. So like today, we're doing procession of the equinoxes. Really, I'm going to kick right into the KM right away. And then sun worship and symbolism. Now, that will mark us halfway through this astrotheological world project I've been working on. But if you guys want to bail and you want me to read my book, I absolutely can. It's not a problem. Or if you want me to stay in the astrotheology thing, I can. It doesn't matter. Whatever you guys want to do. Look at this. Ghana is here. Check it out. Look. Look. That's fantastic. It's Sunday morning here. You know, Obi, that's true. In Australia, this comes on actually at a pretty good time, I think. Okay. I hear you, Christina. I'm happy to stay on it. Awesome. Awesome, Steph. Hi, Steph. Great. If you guys want me to stay on it, bro, I can. It's not a problem. Obi. Obi. You need to see 3A, B, and C. It's all about the CIA, menticides, mind rape, mind control. I go in 3A, B, and C. I go into the origins of the CIA. I go into what they did. I list out what they did in the 60s and 70s, the whole tee up for what happened in the booming 80s and then the 90s, and then, you know, the buildings coming down in 2001. And I do all that stuff in there. You should check it out. Really, they're worth your time. 3A, B, and C are worth your time. You can get them. You can get them. You can watch them on Rumble. I also have them on Odyssey. Okay, I'll tell you. Hi, DC Sniper. I only watch God Eaters 2. How can I say this? Okay, Brotherhood. Okay, there's a God Eaters 1. It's red, and it's on my YouTube page. My YouTube page has the first 2 of the God Eaters series. And then when I posted the third, that's when they almost banned me. They sent me that. I'd never seen a letter like this from YouTube ever. But they sent me this letter that was unlike anything I'd ever received. And it basically said, if you post a video, that video or another video like it again, your channel will be canceled and there will be no chance to ever get it back. It was like, that's it. And that really was the beginning of my moving into Rumble and I just don't have time to watch all of these different social medias, but into Rumble and Odyssey. If you go to Rumble right now or Odyssey, all 5 videos are there. 1, 2, 3A, 3B, and 3C. Okay, I haven't done videos 6 and 7, but I have them ready. Okay, now see, here's the thing, Rosa. Here's the thing. I wanted to do the Next in the God Eaters on this show, but I couldn't post it on YouTube. I can't. They'll ban me. And so I can't do it. I can't post it here. And I can only post it on Rumble. And so my thought was the main core of people who follow me and watch me are on YouTube. I mean, that's my main core. And I never felt comfortable abandoning that core and making everyone come over to Rumble and restarting my Rumble or getting it started. And so I don't want to do that. I don't want to lose years and years and years of work and building a reachable fan base and people who know who I am and see me. I just didn't feel it was right to just throw that to the wind and just go somewhere else for the sake of going somewhere else. And so I felt that it was more efficacious for me to do the lives. And then hopefully I can stay more relevant to you guys. Thank you, Philip. That's a very kind thing for you to say. I really appreciate that. Thank you so much. Thank you, Sarah. I appreciate that. Thank you, Sarah. Okay, Katie Cat. So it looks like this is a hit. Awesome. Yeah, dude. Okay. So you guys dig it. All right. I'll do it. We'll keep going. I got everything ready for tonight. We're going to dive right in here in a minute. I've got to make an announcement coming up. Looks like we got about a couple hundred people in here, so we're good. Okay, so I need to make an announcement. So check this out. This is good news, man. This is a big thing. Okay. Look. Media assets. Here we go. Okay. So I am doing this. Are you guys ready? The Swindoll Summer Shindig. Here we go. 3 o'clock Pacific time, Saturday, August 2nd, 2025. That's in about a month, folks. Right up here at Artist Point, Mount Baker, Whatcom County, Washington State. Why are we doing it? Well, we're doing it not because I'm going to sell something, announce something, or anything like that. We're doing it to enjoy nature's bounty, commune and love one another, and catch the sunset. It's a come one, come all event, pets and people friendly, of course. This is a state park, and I'm about to show you some pictures of it. Artist Point is a state park, and what we're going to be doing, I'm going to start showing you pictures. So this is one of the pictures from, here, right here. So this is Artist Point, or one of the views. This place is spectacular, folks. It's absolutely spectacular. It's absolutely glorious. That Shooksand Mountain in the distance, people do these rock stacks on the top. This is from Table Mountain. This is the mountain we're going to go up on, right? I kid you not. If you go, you see that big plateau there in the distance. That's Table Mountain, and it's literally flat. You can walk all over the top of that. We're going to the top. I kid you not. On the far right-hand side, where you see where it ends in that big, long roundabout, there, let's see. This is the view from that point. Okay? You see? How incredible is this place, dude? So when you stand on the top of the mountain right there, you're looking at this. That's Mount Baker there in the distance. Here's another shot. This is when I was sitting with Scooty, my daughter Jessica, on the left. And we're looking at Shooksand. This is another beautiful shot of Mount Baker. How spectacular is this place? Okay. Have I shown you all the pictures? I think I've shown you the pictures. I didn't want to bring too many. It takes much time. So here's directions. Okay, so that's Highway 5 over there. That's Bellingham. Okay, that's Highway 5. That gray highway on the left there, that's Bellingham. And then the red road is Highway 542. And from Highway 5 to Artist Point, there on the far right, is about an hour and a half drive off Highway 5 to give you an idea how far it is. Here's like official directions. So if you want to copy that and paste that or whatever to your desktop or email or whatever, that's directions if you want to go. And that's the map. Okay, some pertinent details you guys need to know. Okay, some pertinent details. This is a small town. Glacier, Maple Falls, Bellingham, these are small little places, okay? Bellingham is the biggest town all the way until Seattle, okay? So it's a simple place. So it's not like going to LA or Miami or someplace that's, all set up for that kind of thing. It's a campground, camping area. It's very simple. Now, if y'all are campers, like if you want to come up and you're going to do a camping trip, there's 2 camping sites you can check out and you have to make reservations. Silver Lake Park Campgrounds. They just redid it about 5 years ago. It's beautiful. And then there's also the horse park, Silver Lake Horse Park Campgrounds. So if you want to do the camping thing, make it a road trip, RV, all that kind of thing, or whatever you want to do, however you camp, you can do that. You can do that. And let's see. August 2nd, I'm getting my calendar here out because I don't want to mess up. Okay, so August 2nd is obviously a Saturday. So like if you wanted to come up July 28 or whatever, stay the week and end it with our time together on the 2nd, great. If you want to come up Friday or Thursday, the 31st of July, stay through the weekend till the 3rd, 4th, 5th, whatever, great. Do whatever you want, okay? But I'm going to be up at Artist Point. We're going to meet at the parking lot at 3 o'clock on the 2nd. There's also Airbnbs here. So if you want to stay at an Airbnb, contact Glacier, is one of the cities up here. Glacier or Maple Falls. They have a whole building dedicated to just Airbnbs because there's a lot of people that do Airbnbs up here. Our neighbors do Airbnb. So that's another option if you want to stay. Another thing to know, there's so many details you guys need to know. Another thing to know, there are very few restaurants. Now, my favorite restaurant on the entire planet is North Fork Pizza and Beer. It's the best pizza and beer. They make all their beer in-house and all their pizza in-house. It's awesome. It's delicious. Now, that's on the way. That's on the way between Bellingham and right before you get to Maple Falls is North Fork Pizza and Beer. So if you want to get something to eat, that's a great place to get something to eat. There's also a Mexican food place in Glacier. And I can't, of all things, I can't remember because I never eat out. But there's a great Mexican food place in Glacier. One of my best friends' restaurants just closed, unfortunately. They went out of business. But Graham's was open in Glacier, but they're not open anymore, unfortunately. So the place across the street from Graham's. And then there's also Chair 9. Those are the 3 restaurants. And they all close at 9. So if we're going to be up at Table Mountain and we're watching the sunset at Artist Point, I mean, you leave the mountain at 8 o'clock, the sun sets at about 8:10 or whatever. Well, the restaurant will be closed because it takes you an hour to get from the mountain to the restaurant. So bring snacks, or eat before you go, or, something, because when it comes to food and provisions and things like that, it's very simple. There's a little shopping market called Crossroads Grocery in Maple Falls. I worked there for 8 years. They're fantastic. They're in Maple Falls, and you can stop and get food there. They got frozen foods. They got fresh fruits and vegetables, things like that. But they close at 9 o'clock on Saturday and Fridays. And boy, I've already forgotten. Yeah, Fridays and Saturdays they close at 9, and then they close at 8 o'clock on the other days. So this is just important information to know, because I think a lot of people would come up here and think, oh, we'll just get a late dinner at 9 o'clock after we see the sunset at Artist Point, and everyone's going to be closed. So just so you know up front, that's some of the details. I was reached out, or some people reached out to me this week that might be flying in from the East Coast. I mean, so it's a really big deal. And I just want anyone, I mean, I say that to say that's really heavy duty. I mean, that's amazing that people would fly all the way here for this gig, but I have a feeling that some people are going to do that. So just plan ahead, and don't assume it's going to be like the big town city that you probably live in. This is simple times up here. It's simple. There's like probably 350 people in the city, in the town that I live in. Glacier probably has less. Okay. So that's what we're going to be doing. That's the plan. And I'm going to put up the flyer here again here so you guys can see it in case you want to go. It would be great to see you. Please bring $5 for the Northwest Forest Pass, and you can purchase that at Crossroads Grocery. Obviously, I'm not selling them, but you can buy them for $5 at Crossroads Grocery. Cool? Okay, does anybody got any questions about the camping trip? Thank you, Obi. I appreciate that, sir. Okay, do you guys have any questions? I'm not seeing any questions. Quick, will you do lives? Okay, that's a great question. Here's the thing. Hey, Esoteric 369, welcome back. I don't know if I can, to be honest with you, because I don't know if they have any cell service up there. They might, but it would be sketchy. So I don't think, I mean, I will definitely probably record some video and I'll present that to the group when I get back. But as for doing something live up there, I don't know. Maybe. I'm going to give it a maybe. I'm not going to say no. It would be awesome to do that. It would be awesome. Yes, you're exactly right, Twilight Mist. It is a primetime place to do some painting. It is absolutely spectacular. Really, honestly, guys, if you want to get up there even earlier, honestly, if you guys want to get up there even earlier than 3 o'clock, go for it. Go for it. Absolutely go for it. No need to wait for me. I'm going to be there at 3, and I'll be with the group. I'll be with all you guys. And there's no format. There's no plan. Just show up at the parking lot, gather together, meet each other, stuff like that. Say hello. There's no organized nothing. Just shaking hands, giving hugs, saying hello. And then we're going to go right on the trail. The trail starts from the parking lot up at the top of Artist Point. If you Google Earth all this stuff, you'll see it. But there's a parking lot at the top. We're at Artist Point. And we leave on the trail to go up to Table Mountain. And I swear to you, we are going right there. I promise you. That's my wife right there, Jenny, in red. And that's a cliff. She's standing on a cliff. It's straight down from that perspective. But it is flat up there. It looks like this. It's flat. You can walk all around. It's fantastic. It looks like the Himalayas. When you look around, you'll see that we're at the base of the Cascades, and it looks like the Himalayas. It's absolutely gorgeous. Here's a little trail. That's Scooter. That's Jessica, my daughter. It's awesome. I hope you guys can make it. Isn't that a beautiful picture? No editing to that picture at all. Absolutely gorgeous. Okay, any questions before I bail and start on the talk? I'll be the first one there. Right on. I hope to see you, Dirty Ketchup. Whatever you can do just to wave back at the tribe. Of course. No forgetting. I want to, Obi. I want to see Australia, and I want to see Ireland and Scotland. Those are the 2 places I want to see more than anywhere else in the world. Yeah, I know it is. It's exceptional. It's incredible. I know. It's gorgeous. It's gorgeous. We'd love to have you, Rosa. Would love to have you. Thank you, Sarah. We will be thinking of you. That is a great question. So it's not bad at all. It's not it's not mountain climbing. You'll walk. You just walk. But like if you have to use a cane or you can't go in a wheelchair. There's steps to take. There's no handrails. But people walk it all the time. I see moms and dads walking with their kids up Table Mountain all the time. So it's not like some precarious, crazy thing like you see on some of the videos on YouTube. It's not like that. It's really, honestly, it looks worse than it is, meaning the climb up. I mean, when you see that picture I showed, it looks like a sheer face. Really, there's some outcroppings of rocks, and it's great. The trail goes right up through some trees along the side, and it switched back, and you take up some steps. Now, some of the moments you've got like a 4-foot path, but the other side of the path's a drop off. There's not like safety railing, but it's perfectly safe. If you are of just normal walking ability. But if you require like special care and people to hold your hand to get around or a wheelchair, you won't be able to go there. But Artist Point officially has wheelchair access. The Artist Point itself, you can go from the parking lot, and they have wheelchair access inside a little bit to be able to see some nice views over the side towards Table Mountain. But that's really the only wheelchair access available. It's not real friendly to wheelchairs. So it's just on the front end, know that. But it's totally fine for people that can just walk around, people that are running and jogging and stuff, and you're, relatively good shape, and, you're not tired. Like, you don't have to sit down in a chair for 20 minutes after walking up a flight of stairs. If you have to sit down in a chair for 20 minutes after walking up a flight of stairs, it's probably not for you. But if you're fine just, doing your thing and walking along in just your normal everyday health, you'll be great. It's not high risk or anything like that. You just need to have your wherewithal with you, and you need to hold your children's hands if you're going to bring up kids. But it's not like precarious where it's like, okay, if I fall, if I lose my balance, I'm dead. It's not like that. You can walk the trail up. It's really not bad at all. So thank you. That's a great question. And it's about probably 45-minute hike, about 45 minutes or so. Not bad. Okay. Hello, Starshine. Hello. From the Grand Canyon, well, you could Google Maps that to get a time frame, but the Grand Canyon's pretty far south. I am about 20 minutes from Canada. Artist Point, you will be looking at the Canadian mountains from Artist Point. So like I'm right at the edge of the United States, top left, top west corner of the United States. I mean, if you look at where Bellingham is on the United States, I'm about 45 minutes to an hour from Bellingham. So, I mean, that's where I'm at. So if you time from that area all the way down to the Grand Canyon, you can see, I mean, that's basically across the entire United States, like the height of it. It's absolutely beautiful here, Mythological Muse. It's beautiful here. Okay, let's jump in. Let's get going on the talk. I'll come back to chat. I'll come back to chat. But what I wanted to do is I wanted to get started on this because right up front here, we're going to be dealing with the KM, and this all happened by chance. Now, today we're looking at the precession of the equinoxes and sun worship and symbolism. Okay, and if you want more information about this stuff, those books right there contain the information that's on this talk. It's based on them. Okay, so tonight, our first section is the precession of the equinoxes. So we're going to be looking at their discovery and significance in the Near East. And that's really what did it. That Near East, that's really what did it. Sumer. That's what kicked it off. I'm going to be right there in a second. Mechanics of the precession, and then also cultural and religious implications. Okay, now this is what launched the whole thing into this KM thing I'm going to do right here on the front end. Let's read. The discovery of the precession of the equinoxes was due to the philosophical and astronomical traditions of the Near East, particularly in the Euphrates Valley, Mesopotamia, around 3 to 4,000 BC. Now I'm going to show you a bigger map of that here in a second. Here. Okay? That's going to get us going. Look at there. Sumer, Uruk, Ur, Nippur. These were the beginning of the West, folks. That was the beginning of the West between 7,000 and 4,000 BC, according to the accepted record of history, which none of you have to buy if you don't want to believe it, okay? That's where the cradle of Western humankind came from, right there, Sumer. About 7,000, 6,000 BC, okay? And just keep that in mind. We'll keep going. This period corresponds to the flourishing of the Sumerian and early Babylonian civilizations, whose astronomer priests meticulously observed celestial movements. Okay, we've been talking about that. You guys should now be familiar with that and be well aware of that now. While the Greek astronomer Hipparchus is often credited with formally documenting precession around 130 BC. And I think it's pretty safe to say they knew about precession. The Sumerians knew about precessions before then. That actually right there, that line is a great way to know how accepted history twists things. Now look, you really think Sumer, a culture that has monuments like temples and huge construction projects, a vocabulary and writing system, okay? You really think they don't know about the equinoxes? They don't know about precession? They knew we had 9 planets, folks, okay? These people were in touch. And so it wasn't all the way down to 130 BC. That's just when it was documented. And remember, a lot of these ancient cultures, everything was passed on through oral tradition. Remember that. Most of the stuff was passed on through oral tradition. And so when the society died, when the tribe died, their tradition died with them. You see? And so that's why when you start having these enormous city-states that begin to establish themselves, that's why they have these writing systems and monuments, because this carries out their knowledge, their language, what they had discovered, and basically that they were here over vast amounts of time. Just like the pyramids. The pyramids denote there was an organized civilization here at some point long before us. And the only reason, or one of the only reasons why we know that, is because of the monuments. And so a lot of these ancient civilizations like Babylon, Pharaonic Egypt, Sumer, Judea, these major groups of people build, and this cements them into the historical record. And that's why it's important. And so we denote the ones that have those things. And that's why Sumer here is denoted as one of the first, or if not the first, Western city-state, because they have a writing system, a language system, monumental architecture. They're engaging in artwork, and they understand the celestial realm. You see? Okay. Continuing, it is suggested that earlier Near Eastern cultures, such as the Chaldeans, recognized this phenomenon through long-term star observations. They're talking about precession. The significance of precession lies in its revelation of a grand cosmic cycle influencing cultural and religious frameworks. And you guys know why it influences electromagnetics, information from the sun. That's why as we travel further upward and we have a higher trajectory to the black hole, what is happening now on the planet? There's an enormous awakening happening. And so a part of that is the energy that we have now accessed because we've moved up outside of the ecliptic plane, not outside, but we're moving above it so that the density, I talked about this in my previous videos, the density isn't there. So we're getting a clean shot to the knowledge and information that comes out of the black hole in the esoteric world. Okay, in astrotheology, precession provided a temporal structure for understanding divine epochs, shaping myths and rituals that aligned human society with celestial rhythms. Now, let's talk about the Phoenicians. They are going to be the basis of my introducing the KM. For some of you that maybe don't know about the KM means Khazarian Mafia, the Khazarian Mafia. And it is of my conviction that it's the Khazarian Mafia that has steered the world since just after, right in the midst of Babylon. And they come out of tribal societies, and that's the first thing let's look at. The Phoenicians come out of tribal societies, the Semites, the Canaanites, in the land of Canaan. And Phoenicia was right there on the coast of the Mediterranean Sea. Now, that is very, very important to know. And we'll get into it. Here we go. Phoenicians, a Semitic-speaking maritime trading people centered in city-states like Tyre. There you can see Tyre right there on my map. Sidon and Byblos, modern Lebanon, flourishing from 1500 to 300 BC. Now, remember, Rome started around 500, or excuse me, around, I think it was 600, 700 BC. Okay? So Phoenicia bled right into Rome, meaning these groups were contemporary. And it was at the end of the Phoenicians, when the Phoenicians began, like the diaspora that happened with the Jews, the Phoenicians began to disseminate into the culture. And they are running and developing the money system of the West is being established along the Mediterranean. This is very important to know. The money and exchange system that established and began the West, that was, I mean, it's the body of water required to do it, okay? The Phoenicians migrated there, and that was their homeland. And because they were right on the coast, they became merchants. They handled the importing and exporting of goods. That's going to become extremely important. Now, with the importing and exporting of goods, what begins to happen? What begins to happen? Wealth. Okay? Because they're merchants and they have access to these trade goods that are going between two different peoples. They're going between peoples that are coming in to the Mediterranean and peoples that are coming in from further away from the Mediterranean. And they're all in that hub of the Levant, the west side of the Mediterranean Sea. And entrenched in the middle of that are the Phoenicians. And they are getting wealthier and wealthier. In fact, They developed the coin system, or they were the third to develop the coin system. And I just want you to know that along with them are the Semites and the Canaanites. These are all flourishing tribal systems that are coming out of the Levant. Now, what do we know about the tribal systems? What do we know? They're all dominator-based, which is natural law. The strongest survive. So long before infiltration of all this Satanism and all this control of the Khazarian mafia, before that, okay, before that is the beginning of the greed systems. There was human sacrifice. There was all that going on in the tribal systems and the shamanistic systems, but they weren't captured yet on a mass scale. That's very key to understand. It was going on, but understand, not all of these tribal societies that are coming out of ancient man, whatever you believe man came from, all right, they are uniting with nature. And nature unites very lucidly with Hermeticism. From death comes life. For every front, you have to have a back. Gender, opposites, resonation. That this aligns with nature. And so these ancient tribal systems recognize this idea that from death comes life, and it was their, as I talked about earlier, it was their conviction that if they sacrificed life to the gods, the celestial gods would bless them and would keep away the storms, bring the rains, bring the floods, so that their crops would survive and they could make it another winter. This is all practicality. It's practicality. And the natural development of human beings, the natural development of uniting with nature and building a society, because these ancient tribes knew the more of us that there are, the more powerful we become. That's a Sun Tzu statement, Ancient Art of War. There is strength in numbers. And that's a basic natural law. I mean, look at ants. Look at ants. They can build a creature 400, 500 times their size, and they can still do it because of their numbers. Okay, this is natural development and progression. And out of that ancient Canaanite tribal whole way of living became the city-state. Now, the city-state is there to provide, to provision the tribe, the people, because they have to be strong, they have to be united in order to fight off the other tribes that are developing. Now, you can begin to see now conflict orientation, dominator world, a world based in greed, a world based in survival, gaining power, gaining authority. These are natural outpourings. You can see this in the hierarchy systems of squirrel monkeys. They still divide out by hierarchy. This is natural law playing out. Nothing. What I'm trying to say is nothing wrong here, but look what happens, okay? And it's because of the infiltration of that Khazarian that everything goes awry, but we're going to get to that. So here we are with the Phoenicians, who have developed this whole trade system, and let's read about them here for a minute. The Phoenicians were an ancient Semitic civilization that originated in the Levant region of the Eastern Mediterranean, specifically in what is now modern-day Lebanon, Israel, and Syria. Historical evidence suggests they emerged as a distinct culture in 1500 BC. Their roots, however, extended further back, evolving from the Canaanite culture, which had been prominent in the region since approximately 3000 BC. Remember, folks, these are savages, okay? These are savages. They are living off the land. You got to understand, the whole mentality is not yet of this higher and higher conscious of the individuating of the individual. When you are born, you are a tribe member. You are not an individual. You are a tribe member. You serve the tribe because the tribe is going to keep you alive. Because if you went out into the forest by yourself, you're dead. You're dead. And so you're a tribesman. You're a warrior. You're a priest. If you're female, you are making the dinners, you are gathering the food, you are raising the children. You are a part of the tribe, and it was your tribal function. In fact, they didn't even have marriage. They just had orgies. And this ensured the continuation of the tribe. You have to get out of this idea of the individuated individual. That kind of psychology did not exist. You aligned to the tribe. The tribe. So there was no single person. It was, I'm a tribesman. There's no individual me. I serve the tribe. And everything you did when you hunted, you went and got food for the tribe. When you went and attacked other villages, you attacked with the tribe. Everything is with the tribe, okay? And so this is a natural way of development in the natural world, in nature. What I'm saying is nothing's wrong here. They're barbarians, but nothing's wrong. That's the way it is. That's the way it is. And higher consciousness begins to come into play when you have the leisure, like I talked about in Astrotheology for the first 3 weeks, when you have the leisure to contemplate the larger world, the world past the one that you see. And I don't have time to do that if I'm a tiny little family tribe and we are working our bohinies off every day just to stay alive. Do you see? And so higher contemplation, individuation, this whole idea of these patterns and structures that are past what is pressing on me right now, you must have leisure for that. And the only way you have leisure is how? Larger and larger societies that can support larger and larger spans of people. Okay? Okay, so continuing. Okay, the Canaanites were known for their city-states, such as Biblios, Sidon, and Tyre, and their established trade networks. See, it's already happening, folks, which the Phoenicians later expanded upon. You see it? Plain as day, easy as cake to understand. Archaeological findings, concluding Canaanite pottery and early Semitic inscriptions, indicate a continuity of culture that transitioned into what we recognize as the Phoenician civilization. This is so good, I can hardly stand it. I can hardly stand it. I'm so excited to tell you guys about this stuff. Although the Phoenicians became prominent around 1500 BC, their influence on the developing Western world from this period onward was profound. As master seafarers and traders, notice that seafarers, maritime law. What do we know about the United States? It's under maritime law. That's why you travel down a birth canal. That's why you're given a birth certificate. You're under maritime law. That was done by the Roman Catholic Church. And it came out of the Phoenicians, who developed maritime trade law. So you have the common man law and you have maritime law. Maritime is for businesses. That's why all of your name on your birth certificate and your name on your social security card is all caps. That's why. Maritime law. That's why you are an asset of the state. And when your parents sign your birth certificate, they sign you over as an asset to the United States Business Corporation. This all comes out of the Phoenicians. This all comes out of maritime law. I tell you that in case you didn't know it. That's where it comes from. That's how old this is. Now, obviously, the Phoenicians, when they were developing maritime law, were not using it to capture people. They were using it to denote the trades. That's it. And it was the Catholic Church, it was the KM that developed this whole maritime system to then remove your sovereignty. And when your parents sign your birth certificate, sign your sovereignty over to the state. Okay? They twisted this whole maritime law in the same way they twisted religion. You see the connections? You see the pattern. Once you see it, it becomes so simple you can't believe it. And that's part of the reason why the trick has worked. It's so simple and so basic and so in your face, you'll never see it. You'll never see it. You sign your kids. I signed my kids away. I signed their birth certificate. I did the same thing. I'm not saying I'm anything special and that I avoided any of this. I've been in the system with you. I found out about it with you. Okay, I'm nothing special. And that's why they did this, was to be able to, without anybody knowing it, turn over your rights, turn over your sovereignty to the freaking queen, the Roman Catholic Church. Okay, it comes out of Phoenicia, Cana, from the Canaanites. Okay, and the Semites, the ones who run Western religion, the Semite Jews. Okay, they established a vast network of colonies and trading posts across the Mediterranean, including notable settlements like Carthage in North Africa, founded around 1200 BC, as well as sites in Sicily, Sardinia, and Spain. Their maritime dominance facilitated the exchange of goods, ideas, and technologies between the Eastern and Western Mediterranean that was powered by Far East silks, mercantilism, human trade, and extreme wealth. Human trade known as slavery. He who holds the gold makes the decisions. Guess who established that truth? The Phoenicians. The Phoenicians. Continuing, last slide to read, and then I'm going to start talking about it. We're going to go to this slide. Okay, next slide. The Phoenicians were contemporaries of the Babylonian Empire, which spanned from 1894 BC to 539 BC, right when Rome gets going. And their peak influence aligns with the later Neo-Babylonian period of 626 to 539. While they did not directly shape Babylon's political or military environment, see what I told you guys earlier? Babylon wasn't fully taken. It was taken later. While they did not directly shape Babylon's political or military development, their extensive trade networks fostered significant cultural and economic exchanges. That's critical, which undergirded their growing wealth. Phoenician merchants traded goods such as textiles, metals, for example, tin and copper for bronze production. Because what's the technology that protects the city? Iron, smelting, metalworks, blacksmiths. There's all your weaponry. How good are you going to do? How strong is your military going to be if you're working with copper swords? And then you have bronze swords, which are stronger, right? And then you have what? Steel. And I'll cut right through. Copper sword. That's the technology. And then when the Romans developed the chariot, this was the first tank. And the reason why the Romans and why Alexander was able to just decimate, every area of land around the Mediterranean Sea, the reason why he was able to take over all of that, the chariot, war technology. Have you read anything about Alexander the Great when he was a young boy? You cannot believe this. When he was 17, his father was a great warrior. He was born, I think, around 30, something like that, or that's when the attacks began. I'm sorry, I don't have my dates all perfectly, but this is long after those dates I'm telling you. This is nearing 0 BC when the trade routes opened up. We'll get to that in a minute. But he was a young boy when Rome was beginning to want to, again, expansion, domination, greed, power, authority, all right? And these city-states want to exert that onto the planet, take it over. That's why Alexander cried when there was no more worlds to conquer. That was his meaning in life, was conquering barbarism. He was a barbarian. Okay, and what gave him power was the chariot. And so there's this, in one of the lectures I was listening to, he was on the battlefield with his father. He was 17 years old. 17. And he was second in command, working alongside his father. His father was a general in the army, in the Roman army. So he had learned his entire life to fight. Okay, it was in him. He bled this. It was everything about him, right? So he was on the flank, on the left-hand flank in this battle. His father, there's so many things to tell you. His father was in the lead pack. Alexander fought with the lead group. When he graduated out from just helping his father died, and he took the position, he would go with the lead pack. He didn't send in the other guys. He was right there in the front. You talk about a leader. You talk about somebody you want on your side is a man that's on the front freaking row of the battle. Fearless. fearless. So he's on this left flank, and his father is attacking this battle. And here, this is the artistic side of this, of the war. If he moved that flank in too quickly, it would have compromised his father's frontal attack. They had these huge, long spears that the Romans used. Their technology for war was unbelievable. You should check it out sometime. Technology is what brought the Roman rule upon the planet. Okay, so his dad's going in with this first initial phase. And so he is hiding in the flanks alongside of this huge army that they're going against. Bring tears to my eyes talking about it. And he's waiting for his father to be able to penetrate enough into that front row to be able to come around the side and get him. If they go too soon, his father's going to die. If they go too late, his father's going to die. Gonna die. Okay? So he has to time it just right. And at age 17, he knew exactly how to do it. And if you study some of the wars that he fought with his father, you will find that he is learning all of this war technique and as a freaking teenager, a teen. It's incredible. And so that's why when Alexander decided we're going to basically destroy the Persians, he went out and did it and drove the Persians out. And that's what built the foundation of Rome. That was the establishment of the Roman Empire. And from about 0 BC, the trade routes, until the beginning of the Catholic Church, when Rome was falling due to infiltration from the trade routes, which I've talked about, they were in their illustrious career. Like Rome, if you ever see the way Rome was, where they've rebuilt it digitally to make it look like it actually was, it's palatial. It's palatial. And you as a tribesman, if you would have come upon Rome and walked into the city streets of Rome, your mouth would have been on the ground. You cannot believe the power and illustriousness of the country of Rome in 0 BC to 300, right in their heyday. Okay, continuing. Okay, well, with the Babylonians, archaeological evidence, including Phoenician trade foods found in Mesopotamian sites and Babylonian-style artifacts in Phoenician cities, support this economic relationship. Now, the fun part. Now, look carefully at this. You guys are familiar with this. Now, look at where the Phoenicians are coming out of, okay? They're coming out of tribal groups that are Baal worship, human sacrifice, okay? This is the natural development of human beings, okay? And you have the Phoenicians and the Sumerians, early Canaan, later Canaan. Okay, this is this is the establishment of the West. The next thing that came was Babylon. That's the first giant city-state, okay? So preceding, before Babylon, was the Phoenicians, Babylon was the first city-state that came out of the Phoenicians. And you know that they were running maritime trade. Now check this out. Now, there's the laws of water and there's the laws of man. The laws of the land refer to the domestic legal system governing a nation's territory. This is what we should be under, but we're not in America. We're owned, and in Australia and other countries are owned by the Queen. Okay, now you're going to find out why now. To the domestic legal system governing a nation's territory, encompassing constitutional, statutory, common, and customary laws. Unlike maritime law, which is a specialized international framework for sea-related activities, laws of the land are broader, addressing all aspects of societal governance within a jurisdiction. Have you noticed those people that have checked out of the system in America? Have you noticed those people? And they're under now common law. Have you noticed those people, like when they get pulled over by the cops, they don't even have to give them any information? And I'm not anti-cops or anything. I'm just saying that people that have released themselves from the maritime system, they're under an entirely different set of rights. And because the entire United States system is under maritime, those people don't have to fall under the maritime rights because they've rejected it, because you were signed into it when you were born on your birth certificate. And so you can, through lawyers and money, you can change the laws that you fall under in this country, and you can be under common law. That's why those people can do that, and that's why there is a maritime law, to control you. It's never been about your freedom. It's been to control you. In the context of ancient trades, such as the Phoenicians era, merchants navigated, here it is, both the laws of the land in city-states or empires and the laws of the sea, highlighting the interplay between these legal domains in facilitating global commerce. What does that mean? It means they became fluent in money and law. How do you control the people? Wealth and laws. The Phoenicians became specialists at this, okay? That's power. That's power, okay? Now you're going to watch this unfold. You're not going to believe this, how this unfolds with the trade routes and the Khazarians. Now here's their ownership of the money. You know how they changed us all out of the gold standard and they moved us into the fiat? Okay, it's because their money, they are engaged in money magic. The whole idea of money magic comes out of the Phoenicians. And to this day, we are within the realm of money magic. What's it called? Usury. What's usury? Taxes. Phoenicians. Phoenician coins were among the earliest in the Levant and played a significant role in spreading coinage to religions like Judea. Is that where Christianity's from? Carthage and the Western Mediterranean. Their maritime trade networks amplified the use of coinage, making their coins a pivotal development in Mediterranean commerce, if not the earliest. It was right there alongside the Greeks. Their influence on the Hebrew shekel. The Hebrew shekel. Interesting. And the Carthaginian coinage underscores their role in monetary history. In other words, their power. Now we get to the meat. These are trade routes, friends. And I'm going to give you the story, whether you've heard it or not, because there might be a detail that you haven't heard, because this always comes out differently every time I tell it. These are trade routes. Okay? It takes 1 year to travel from China all the way to the Levant, the Mediterranean, and the West. Okay? Now follow the story. Follow the story. In China, you have families, ancient families that are not connected at all in culture, society, knowledge, technology, nothing. Okay? They are developing. China is completely, the Far East is completely developing separately. Okay? You have the West, the Near East, the Levant, the Far West. You have that development. And then you have the Far East development. And what the Far East made were textiles, silks, fine goods, glass, metals, okay? The basic building blocks of society, and then the embellishment of royalty are the goods they deal in, okay? That they're, in other words, they're wanted, okay? And they start moving in, these families in 0 BC, follow the timeline, this is important, in 0 BC, begin to establish relationships with people in the West. Long before the Khazarians were attacking them, long before any of that started, a few hundred years later, shortly after, but a few hundred years later, they're developing relationships, the Chinese, the Far East, and they're traveling that year's travel, and they're carrying all their goods. They're carrying them to the West to sell them for gold. Who's got the money system? The Phoenicians. Where are they going to take all of their goods? The Mediterranean Sea, because it will take it to these clowns, the rulers who are buying it. Now follow the trail. Who is buying all the goods from the Far East, right? These guys. Look what they're spending every year. I had the computer calculated out to modern day money. Every year, these clown shows with their legs showing, these rulers, they're spending 25 million in clothing, 18 million in wine, 15 million in tapestries and rugs, 14 million in art and silk fabrics, 5 to 6 million in glass and silverwares, approximately $77 million. Each one of these rulers are spending, and look how many of them there are. By the time 1000, the 10th century rolls around, look at all of them. And that all builds from about 200 AD until 1200 AD, when the Khazarians finally left to the west. Now here, I'm going to tell you the story. So what happens? Now look at here. You see the red lines? Okay, think of that as a bloodline. Okay? And the Chinese merchants who for the last couple hundred years have established relationships with the people in Europe. And they're traveling along that line. The Khazarians, who are established between the Caspian and Black Sea, it's the Black Sea on the left, the Caspian Sea on the right, just below where it says Khazarians. They establish themselves along the Caucasus Mountains right there, and they become raiders. Now, can you imagine? Think about this. Think about the logic. This makes it so simple to understand. If I'm a Far Eastern family, and I'm working with a number of other families, and we're making textiles and goods, we're making dyes, glasswares, all this fine artwork and rugs and all this stuff, right? After about 5 years, we have amassed an inventory. And it's not going to be sold in China. We got to haul it all the way to the west. And so I'm going to build, me and these families are going to make a caravan. And we're going to load all the goods we've been making for years and years onto this caravan. And we are going to by ourselves travel this 1-year journey. And eventually, guess what? They get to the Caucasus Mountains. They get to the Levant. They get to this area of the world that is filled with these mongers. And so the Khazarians figure out, you know what, we're better off not just raiding these people and taking all their money and all the goods. We're actually better off taking on their persona, stealing their identity. Does that sound like stealing your identity when you're born and you sign over your sovereignty to the state? Does that sound like a similar identity theft? And so they realize, if we find out about this family, we find out about their trade, we find out the people that they're going to meet in the West, if we do that, well, then it's not just a one-time raid. I'm actually, as a raider, I can actually go over to Europe and I can establish the business that they've already have established as the new owner. And that's far more lucrative than just stealing from the caravan. Now, granted, they probably had a few $1 million worth of goods. I mean, think about it. Think about it. Years and years of work that they're taking. They're not going to make that trip unless they've got a big load to take, or it's not worth the time. I mean, you're going to be gone a minimum of 2.5 to 3 years. You're leaving your family, everything, to go on this caravan, and your life is at stake, and you're carrying gold. You're carrying, if you're going back, you're carrying goods and merchandise if you're on your way. You're laden with wealth. You see? Okay. So the Khazarians figure out, and this is exactly what they did. They figured out, if we befriend this group and we bring them up to our place, we can get a bunch of information out of them. Now, the Khazarians, as you know, they come out of the Canaanites. They come out of the northern part of the Levant. These are specialists in plant medicines. And so they get these families drunk. They get them high. They load them up with LSD from ergot. And they use that, just like the CIA, to get information out of the family. Folks, this is where the CIA got the idea. And they begin to give the family that they have befriended off of the Far Eastern family that they have befriended off the trade route and brought to their house, they drug them up. And for 24 hours, that person is just unloading the information, because the Khazarians had become masters of plant medicines and how you can use plant medicines to get down deep into someone's mind and pilfer it. They became masters of it, like a psychologist becomes a master at understanding your behavior. Same thing. And so these Khazarians master this whole thing, and then they begin to take all of the clothing, all of the identity of these people. They adorn their clothes. They've learned all the people they're going to meet in the West. They know all their family record. They can talk about that. They can be fluent, in other words, in talking to the Phoenician merchants in the Mediterranean. And what begins to happen? the Khazarians begin to form relationship with the Phoenicians because they're trading in this massive amount of money and goods. And what begins to happen? They both are getting wealthier and wealthier. So you have this one side, you have this highly satanic, ritualistic oriented people who are neck deep and embedded in drug use, mind control, rape, and human slavery. Okay, you got them. Then you got the Phoenicians on the other side. They have wealth. Well, he who holds the gold makes the calls. So they are intertwined in all the upper echelon and the relationships with the kings, because that's who's buying this stuff. So the Phoenicians, as intermediaries, established relationship with both the Khazarian mafia as well as the royalty. Do you see what is happening now? And so what happens? You have the laws of water and you have the laws of man that are then used to then coerce and capture the rest of humankind. Now consider this. Think of the Phoenicians as the way of the yellow sun. This is the way of wealth. This is the way of authority. This is the way of power. And what do you have? You have the pharaohs, the Romans, the Templars. Who did the Romans worship? The sun god, the yellow sun god, Helios, who crossed the horizon, who crossed the skies all through the summer and brought warmth and life. Who are the Knights Templars? They also align also to the idea of light, of knowledge. Same with the Masons. And it is through wisdom, knowledge, authority, and power you rule. And then we have the way of the black sun, the metaphysical way. Now, you're no longer in the physical realm. Now we're going to go to the metaphysical, which is the specialty of the Khazarians. And what do we have? Babylon, Judea, Khazar, the Jesuits. Who are the Jesuits? The stormtroopers for the Vatican. These are the ones that worship the black sun. The ones on the left are worshiping the yellow sun. The ones on the, that's knowledge. The ones on the right are worshiping the black sun. And what is their specialty on the right? Torture tech, adrenochrome, satanic Jewry. What's the specialist on the left? Magic money or money magic, blackmail, usury. And what happens? These two suns unite. And where do they unite? Right there at the Vatican. Satanic Jewry, baptized in Phoenician blood money. Do you see it? These two groups, the Phoenicians and the Khazarians, benefited each other. They shared their power and technology. They shared their wealth. They're interacting in mercantilism. The Khazarians are stealing the stuff from the East, coming in and selling it to the Phoenicians. This is how the Khazarians were already established in the West when the Russians came in and destroyed their city, destroyed the nation. And remember, all the royalty escaped days, weeks before, because they had scouts that had found out the Russians were coming in to attack. And all the leadership, all the ones who knew the mind control, who understood how to operate this whole system of Satanism, they just up and moved to the West. They've already got everything already established with the Phoenicians. They got all of their relationships already there, who are connected to royalty. Do you follow? What was the next step that happened? 325 AD, the Catholic Church is established. A few hundred years later, they drive out the Khazarians, 1200 AD. They drive out the Khazarians. Where do they go? The Vatican. Where all the Phoenicians are, where the fake Jews are, where all the wealth and money is, and power and authority. And it was through these two societies, the fake Jews of the Khazarians and the Phoenicians, the bankers, the banksters, the globalists, that developed our American system. And that's what you can see right there, the Illuminati, 1776. Same year they signed the Declaration of Independence was the same year the Illuminati congealed. And this is the families. The Illuminati is the congealing of the families that have ruled since the Canaanites. Now do you see the pattern? And the Khazarians simply became fake Jews. Remember when the Russians told them, you're going to have to subscribe to one of these Western religions. And so they said, well, that's perfect. We'll just put on a fake costume called Judaism, and we'll be fake Jews. And that's satanic Judaism are the Khazarians. And this all goes back to here. Look, look. It all goes back to here. Here. Common development. You have the dominator culture developing from the Phoenicians, and you have this religious satanic culture developing with the Khazarians, and they join forces. They join forces. Where did they join forces? The Catholic Church. That's why. To establish the religious and monetary systems. Why do you think the Catholic Church is not subject to usury? Because it's their own money magic that comes out of the Phoenicians, that comes out of the Khazarians. Then you have, what's the establishment of Switzerland right there? 1291. That's money. The Templar is money. This is the money that comes out of the Roman Empire, the pharaohs, these empires based on dominator culture and gold. And then you have these religious cultures on the right, Judea, Khazarians, Jesuits. That's all the religious black sun worship. And what you see, the Vatican, Switzerland, Illuminati, United States of America, what is that? The congealing of the yellow and black sun. That's as clear as I can tell you. That's as clear as the story gets. And look, you don't have to have any kind of mental gymnastic to see what I just described to you. This is common development. This is just power moving in. And it's simply that these people, these Khazarians, had aligned to this evil spirituality, which gives you power. What is Lucifer? Power. Power, deception. Power through deception, power through cunning. Which tribe is going to win? The one that's the most cunning, the one that's the most connected, the one that's the most technologically advanced. I've just described that to you. This is the natural outpouring of Rome, the Templars, the Khazarians, the Jews, the fake Jews, and the Vatican. Do you see it? Now it should be crystal clear. That is why right now in the USA, okay, folks, that should tell you right there just how tightly bound we were. Now think to yourself, now think about this. Why would I be saying that we're walking into a great awakening when the world has been run like this since 1800 BC? Why on earth would we know this? Did any of you know this? Were you taught this in school? Were you taught this in school? This? Or were you taught the BS history that the Khazarian mafia signed up for you? That's the pattern. And it all started here. Babylonia, Sumer. That's where it all started. Okay, reading. Now, okay, before I start reading again, let's go to questions. You guys have any questions? Ask your questions to me. Yeah, we should know all this. You're exactly right. Exactly. We never knew this. Exactly. Why are those not showing up? Yes, exactly. Exactly. You were to never know this. You were to never know this. And the reason why you know this is because you were allowed. Now follow. Who did that? Who did that? Who breached? Who allowed it? They never would have allowed the internet, folks. They never would have. They never would have. Who did it? Do you know? Any guesses? Any guesses? Our hope is what we're doing right now, Dennis. Our hope is right now. It's called awareness. That is your only hope. Think of it this way. There's a lot of people right now who are really freaking out about all currency going digital. Did I just raise the hair on the back of some of y'all's necks? Okay. There's a lot of people who have a tremendous amount of anxiety about the whole world going into digital assets. Now, I ask you this question. How are you going to stop that? Are you going to stop that? No. Is anything going to stop that? No. No more than stopping us going off the gold standard in the 70s. Was anyone going to stop that in the 70s? No. Was anyone going to stop the sinking of the Titanic? What is that, in 1918, 13, something like that? Was anyone going to stop that? No. No one's going to stop it. So what is your role? That leads right to this question here, Dennis. What is our hope to be sovereign in creating individuals? Awareness. In other words, you have been given the opportunity, follow this, you have been given the opportunity right now for the first time in all of human history, dating back to 1800s and before, okay? For the first time ever, you now know, the mass public society knows we are under a false god. We are under false gods. This is the first time everybody's finding out about this. Okay, that should give you great hope, because that is not happenstance. That is not coincidence. It's not. This kind of thing doesn't get out happenstantially. It doesn't get out through chance. There is enforcement and power pushing it forward. What is it? Is it just technology? Is it just the internet? Well, who brought us the internet? Many people say the internet came out of mushroom tripping dudes. That's what I've heard. That it was actually a product of nature. Where nature, when these guys were tripping out on mushrooms, gave them this idea of this connectivity. Now, how otherworldly is that? Look how well it has worked. I'll give you guys an interesting story. They did a test. Paul Stamets did a test. I think it was Paul. He's a mycologist that he works at the Washington State University, just down the road in Olympia from where I live up on the north part. He's in the southern part of Washington. Anyway, they did this test where they took the map of Japan. And I don't know if you've ever looked at the map of Japan, but the roadway systems, it was that or China or something, but it's so complex you can't even, like, it's mind-boggling, okay? And they took the whole map of Japan and they planted mycelium spores at the major hubs of the cities. And then they allowed the spore mycelium to grow on the map as they had laid it out, just like it is in China. The mycelium found a more efficient way of getting goods and getting nutrients and material to other parts of its own organism, found a more efficient way than they had figured out in China for their road systems. That's just raw nature. The mycelium, in other words, was smarter than all the engineers that designed that designed the roadway systems. You guys can look it up. You can Google it. It's a real story. It really happened. This is nature self-organizing, because nature as a whole, the great ontology that is nature, is as a whole, is beyond your consciousness, beyond your awareness. Your consciousness and awareness tunes into it, but it is past anything you could cognize. That's why you can't put into words a life. You can't put into words a baby. You can't put into words the sun. These things are past those kinds of ideas. They're metaphysically past all of that. You see, and this is the conscious awareness that is all around and about us, that our brains as antennae tune into. You're tuning into the consciousness. So how do you hope to be sovereign and creating individual? Tune into the consciousness. Awareness. Baptize your mind in the water of wisdom. That is how you free yourself. This is why they don't want anyone talking about mind-expanding drugs, mind expanding through reading, mind expanding through experience. They don't want you talking about that. They don't want you doing that. They want you zoned out, staring at a screen in a non-reality. That's where they want you. Why? Because when you awaken, you become a threat. And the more of us awaken, the more threat we become, because we don't believe the lies anymore. You disempower the magician by finding out the tricks. How do you find out the tricks of society? Awareness. That's how you find out the tricks. By doing this. I'll show you. By looking at maps like this and noticing, hey, wait a minute. There's a pattern here that wasn't taught to me in history. There's a pattern here. There's magic at work here. There's magic afoot. You see, and this is how you find out. This is how you find out what's really going on. And when you find out what's really going on, you disempower the trick. Because guess what? Now, all of you know that have been listening to me since this thing started, you now know that your sovereignty has been taken from you. You now know that that happened back from the work of the Phoenicians. You now know that's a part of the Khazarian mafia. You now know that those that are in charge, the globalists, have been buying from these clowns since the beginning. And that's why all these freaking losers turned over their sovereignty, because they're empty. They're anointed. These are anointed leaders. They have not gone through the initiation. That's why they look like that. And it infuriates me. It gets me angry, because this goes all the way back. And we still now, to this day, because of these leadership globalist clowns, we still are in the position that we're in. So why is there hope? We have found out the trick. That's why there's hope. We found out the trick. We now know. We are becoming non-compliant. Why do you think the whole COVID thing imploded? Don't you think that would still be going on to this day? Absolutely it would, if we had complied. Why did it stop? Because we refused to comply. There was a huge majority of people that said, no way, Jose. No way. You're not touching me. Right? There's a huge conglomerate of people. Well, if you can't control the people, what happens? You lose your authority. Look at Dr. Fauci now. Does anybody listen to that guy? Does anybody give a rat's bohiny about that guy? Nobody does. He's a clown. He's one of these. He's one of those losers. Total losers. Total losers. Turning over the rights and sovereignty of people. Absolutely. I'll stop. I'll get too upset. Let's keep reading. Okay, before we keep reading, any questions now? Okay, let me comment on this here. Hey Chuck, did the Tucker interview with Cruz expose dispensationalism to the masses, and a greater awakening may occur? Now understand, follow. Everything you're seeing in the media is a play. You are watching a theater. Both sides. White, black hats, everything. This is a theater. Because in order to have a show, what do you have? You have good guys, you have bad guys. Right? That makes a show. Because you gotta have a motivator. What's the motivator? We've got to be able to accomplish this, that, or the other. Okay, so what is the motivation right now? What is happening right now? We have to awaken the people. Okay, well, you can't do that in one session. It takes time. So what you're seeing playing out in the media is a theater. That's why there are people that are a foot taller one day than they were the day before. That's why you see pictures of them at live events and they're like, and they don't move for like 5 minutes. Okay, you're watching a theater. That's not normal human behavior. You're seeing clones. You're seeing bought people. The entire entertainment industry is all programming. The food you eat is to dumb you down so that you will buy the programming. The water you drink, the fluoride shrinks your pineal gland so that your higher awareness and your third eye chakra die or become so invalid they become unusable. Because they're poison day after day. Folks, that is intentional. So that you will not put two and two together. So that when you look at a slide like this, look. When you look at a slide like this, you have no idea what I'm talking about. That's what they want. They want you to see a slide like that and say, what the heck is that? This is crazy. Right? They want you dumbed down. And so what do? What do? Give you dumb technology, dumb religions, dumbing foods, right? Overproduced foods that make you stupid with glyphosate to make you sick, poison your liver, poison you with alcohol, poison you with opioid drugs, get you addicted. None of this, folks, is for your benefit. Okay? And the reason why it's happening is what I just told you. It comes out of the Phoenicians and it comes out of the Khazarians. That's really all you need to know. All the globalists, all the figures, all the media, they're all in on it. They're all in on it. Okay? All of them are in on it. So you have to step back. When you say, do you think it was exposed? Yes, all of this stuff is exposing pieces. But guess what? Not everybody watches Tucker, right? Not every, I mean, I can hardly stand to listen to the guy talk. I just don't like some of these people. Okay? Nothing against them. I know it's all part of the play. I know Dan Bongino's supposed to be doing all this stuff in the FBI. I get it. I know all that's going on. It's just I'm not sitting back looking at all of any one of these people and saying, that dude's right, that dude's right, that dude's right, that dude's wrong, that dude's right. I'm standing back and just saying, okay, I'm just going to observe this stuff. And I'm going to try to make sense of it the best that I can with what I know, but not holding on to anyone, not approaching it with like, I know that these right people are now going to do the right thing. You can't think like that. Put your focus on your own development, your own awareness. Put your energy there. Don't put your energy in the hopes of some person that's going to pass the right law. Don't put your energy in someone that makes a bunch of promises that they're going to arrest a bunch of people. Don't put your hopes and all your encouragement in someone who says, oh, we're going to give you the Epstein list. We're going to show it to you. We're going to give it to you. Stop waiting. Be aware, but stop waiting and accept what you can't control. You can't control if we go to a digital monetary system. You can't control when they release the Epstein notes and files. You can't control when they ultimately reveal UFOs and all that information. You can't control any of that. You are not in charge. But you are in charge of your own self. You are responsible, self-responsible for your own self. And so what's your job? What's your job? Disobey and learn. Don't obey the authorities and learn for yourself. That's your job. And it's a hard job. It's a hard job. It's a risky job. It's risky not listening to authorities. What do you think what do you think happened when I had cancer? I risked. I didn't listen to most of the authorities. And there are times when you have to do that in order to gain the greater knowledge because it's hidden behind a faux knowledge. And that's exactly the work of religion. That's exactly the work of government. They give you a knowledge, they give you a play, they give you a theme, and then want you to stop there. Don't look any further. Don't leave the farm. Stay on the farm. Stay in your place. Get in line. Put your hand down. Stop asking questions. Start obeying. That's what they want. Stay on the farm. Stay on the farm. And your role is to escape the farm. Leave. Leave the farm. Don't listen to them anymore. Do everything you can to keep your money from getting in their pockets. Be self-responsible. Grow your own food. Grow your own garden. Raise your own animals. You know what I'm saying? If you can. If you can't, that's okay. Do your best with knowledge. Learn. You see? Okay, questions? Anybody got questions? I love chat. Thank you. Thanks, Rosa. Thank you. Thank you. I'm sorry I've upset some of you. I'm sorry, but that's the way it is. I'm passionate. Sorry. That's how it's going to be delivered here in this channel. If my raising my voice upsets you, if my getting passionate upsets you, just leave. Seriously, it's not going to change. I'm going to stay passionate. I'm going to stay because I love humanity. I love each and every one of you, and I'm going to fight for you. I'm going to fight for awareness. I'm not going to stand and be quiet. I'm not going to bow. I'm not going to get on my knees, and I'm not going to be prostrate, and I'm not going to believe. Okay? So I'm sorry if that upsets or offends some of you. I'm sorry, but it's not going to change. Heck yeah. Tough love. Thank you, Metal Face. Absolutely. Speaking of metal, I got to play my video. Thank you. Thank you, man. Absolutely. And that's the hard facts, F. Absolutely. Let the slaves be slaves. Listen, I am in a little town that is full-blown blue, man. Like, these people are way left, okay? No judgment. That's just where they land, okay? That's just where they land. I'm not saying I'm far right. I'm not saying I'm the opposite. I'm just saying I live in a city that is very blue, okay? Now follow. I'm working at Crossroads Grocery years ago when the COVID thing's going down. And I literally, I'll never forget this. I will never forget this. This was in 2021. And I'm standing there and we have these huge glass windows that overlook this open lot that's next to the store. And the state brought in tents, 3 tents. This is a city of 350 people. And they bring in 3 huge white tents. And they plant them on the parking lot just across the street from where I'm working. I swear to God. It's a Saturday afternoon. And I stood there and I looked out the window and I watched people lining up to get the shot. Left and right, lining up. Volunteering, man. Let them have it. Most of the people that I saw were getting 2nd and 3rd boosters. Let the slaves be slaves. It's your choice. It's your choice. If you want to volunteer for that and believe in that, it's your choice. No judgment. You live with your consequences. I don't need to instigate any consequences. We all face what we deserve. We all earn the consequences we experience. So if you're going to be a slave and you're going to obey, you're going to ask permission, you're going to seek approval, you're going to expect reproof. If you're going to behave like that and you're going to be like that with the authorities and the state and everything, then I'm sorry. I'm sorry, but that's going to be your life. You're going to be a slave. You're going to be a slave. It is absolute insanity. It was. Pop and Sons, I literally stood there. I'll never forget it because I was standing there and I was working with one of the people there. And I said to him, I said, hey, I'm not going to say their name. I said, hey, come over here. Check it out. Look what they're doing. And she came over and she was looking out the window and she just stood there and shook her head because I had been working with her and I'd been telling her all this stuff. I mean, her and I had all these conversations for like the last year. I had been talking about all this stuff with her for hours and hours and hours. And I said, come on, check it out. Look. And we stared out the window and I said to her, I said, never forget this moment. Never forget this moment. You are watching a population of people that are blindly walking into a tent set up on a freaking parking lot and allowing the state to inject them. This will never happen again. That's what I said to her. I said, this is never going to happen again. All of those people, because of the choice that they made, because they are choosing to inject their body with poison, are going to poison their bodies and they are going to live with the consequences. Nature's merciless. Nature's merciless. You make your own decisions. And if you're not aware, like I mentioned to you earlier, Dennis, if you are not aware, you will obey. You will do as you're told. You will follow the authority, right? And that is the behavior of a slave. That's the behavior of a bot, a person who doesn't think for themselves. And how does nature work? The strongest survive. That's natural law. Am I a strong person if I am handing my authority to the state? Am I a strong person at that point? Or am I just giving over my sovereignty? Just handing it over, like a person who hands their brain to the catechism. Is that a good idea? To hand your brain, your entire religious understanding to the Catholic Church, who gave everyone the Bible? Is that a smart thing to do? Is that wise? Honestly, you see, and this is how nature comes to you and says, what choice are you going to make, friend? The choice is yours. You are free. The choice is yours. And if you choose to do that and you have a choice of doing it or not doing it, and you choose to do it, what then happens? The consequences come out. And I am not judging anyone. I am not saying they're idiots or any of that. I'm saying you live with your choices. You live with those choices. And some choices you make, you never get to take back. That's why I said a long time ago in my videos, sometimes in life, you never recover from your poor decisions. Some decisions you make will follow you until the day you die. I've made decisions like that. There are decisions I've made in my past. Looking back, I know if I had made a better decision at that bifurcation point of my life, I would not be here. I would not be in the position that I'm in now. But I have to live with the choices that I make. I fully understand that some people would lose their job. Their job was threatened. I fully understand that there were situations where someone maybe is a single mom or a single dad, and they're like, listen, if I don't get the jab, then I'm not going to have any money to support my family. And I'm making no judgment on those people at all, because those people were placed into an impossible situation. And that is for their own life and what they'll have to decide. I can make no judgment because I wasn't in that position. I was in the position of having a choice. And so that is the space that I am speaking to. Those that did not have a choice, that were forced or whatever, that is a decision that I cannot comment on. I can't comment on that. But if you went in with a free will, you went in with every opportunity to say no, you know, what can I say? What can I say? Okay. Good. Let's go to and continue on our little journey here. I hope that clarified all the stuff with the Khazarian mafia. I hope that opened up some perspectives and doors. And maybe if you guys have any questions or anything, there we go. Maybe if you guys have any questions or anything, you can ask them, because I'm going to ask chat again what questions you have. But let's continue here. Okay. The discovery of the position of the equinoxes was due to the philosophical and astronomical traditions of the Near East, particularly the Euphrates Valley, Mesopotamia, around 3000 to 4000 BC. This period corresponds to the flourishing of the Sumerian and early Babylonian civilizations, whose astronomer priests, as we know, meticulously observed celestial movements. While the Greek astronomer Hipparchus is often credited with formally documenting precession around 130 BC. I'm sorry, I've read this slide. Sorry. Next slide. Precision refers to the slow westward shift of the equinox points, the moments when the sun crosses the celestial equator during the vernal spring and autumn fall equinoxes. Against the backdrop of the zodiacal constellations, we're going to look at that. This motion is due to the Earth's axial wobble akin to a spinning top, causing the equinoxial points to drift. See, I've added those so I don't keep mispronouncing words. Back towards the zodiac over millennia. In astrotheology, this westward motion symbolizes a cosmic narrative where the sun's position at the equinox marks significant spiritual transitions. The discovery of this motion was a profound insight, revealing the universe's dynamic nature and its impact on human destiny. And you can tell, folks, when looking at this takes a long time. In fact, it takes over 20,000 years for the Earth to do one wobble. And when it wobbles, it's going backwards counterclockwise. Its axial point, its celestial axial point, moves through the zodiac. That's why we're moving through the zodiac. That's why we're moving out of Pisces and into Aquarius, to give you an idea how long this takes. Thousands and thousands and thousands of years. And this is why those ancient cultures were considered such high cultures, because they had the time, the leisure, for generation after generation after generation to observe the movement of the celestial pole. And it takes smart people, mathematics, time, leisure. It takes a society. That's why it takes a society to be able to know this, because that one astronomer or that dozen astronomers that are looking out the ziggurat at night have to be supported by all these people around them that are bringing them food, that are bringing them water, that are bringing them the comfort that they need to stay steady state and to observe the sky without any kind of anxiety pressing on them. And that's why I said last week, that's where that whole idea of the upper echelon of society, the globalists who don't have to work with their backs, the governors that don't have to work with their backs, meaning they're not digging trenches like us in the foxhole out here. They're not doing their own home repairs. They're not fixing their own car and changing their own oil, so on and so forth. You get what I'm saying back and then, if those things existed. You get the point I'm saying. They're in the world of leisure. I mean, look at the governors and everything. They're only in session a few months out of the year. They have months and months off, weeks and weeks off. Right? They're living the life of leisure. And this all comes out of ancient society and your upper echelon of people who have the money, authority, power, and will to do it. It all goes back. Anyway, so studying this, as we look, here's a closer view of the zodiac signs. Now look how short a time our recorded history is, folks. It only goes back to the beginning of Taurus. up to the end of Pisces, beginning of Aquarius. That's it. All those cultures, the pharaohs and all these other societies, the what is it? It starts with an A. Atlantis, the Atlanteans, right? They knew the celestial realm when it was in these other zodiac signs, which kind of gives you connection to them, which is beautiful. But they were under a different sky than you. And it's because the Earth's axial plane wobbles. Okay. Now that wobbling affects time, or the denoting of time and the energies. And so that gets into these sundials. And the reason they're called sundials or sun circles is because they're based on the sun. They're based on Helios. They're based on, well, in this case, this is the Mayans, and I can't remember what they called their sun god. But I'm going to walk into these calendars right now to show you how all this works. So precession results from a combination of gravitational forces exerted by the sun, moon, and planets on the Earth's equatorial bulge. These forces cause the Earth's rotational axis to trace a conical path over time, altering the position of the equinoctial points relative to the stars. The sun and moon are the primary contributors, with minor influences from planetary alignments. That's why when I mentioned before, when I showed that rotating wing nut and it flips every, I think it was 2 or 3 turns, it flips the other way. That's why we know the Earth is stabilized and won't do that. It won't flip like that because of the moon. The moon is there and it pulls on that bulge and it causes the tides. So you see the tides are affected by the moon's gravitational pull, which is why the tides happen. This is life. This is life. The tidal forces and what's going on with the moon, I mean, entire ecosystems are based and built on that. And heck, our entire calendrical system used to be based on the moon. It used to be 28-day month, if I'm not mistaken. Okay. Now the Earth forms a bulge. That's why its bulge has a slightly larger radius, or what is that? Not the radius. It's the circumference of the sphere. The equator bulges, and it's because the gravity, centrifugal force, is pulling. So the Earth isn't quite. It's an oblate spheroid. That's the kind of shape. It's like a football. It's like it's an oblate spheroid. It's not a sphere. It's slightly rounded on the outside. It bulges a little bit. Okay. And the reason for that are these tectonic forces that are taking place from the celestial realm, which affects us. Okay. In astrotheology, these celestial influences are seen as divine interactions. See, the ancient people saw them as divine interactions, where the cosmos operates as a harmonious system governed by spiritual forces. The interplay of solar, lunar, and planetary energies reflect the sun and moon as non-planetary luminaries, emphasizing their unique role in the cosmic order. Now, see, that's important. The sun shines. Think of the sun card in tarot. It's shining light, which is wisdom. And then what's the moon? The moon is reflection. You're reflective to get that information. The moon is not self-luminant. It doesn't make its own light. It reflects. The same with the Earth. It doesn't self-illumine. It reflects. The glow you see of the globe, that's the reflection of light. It's the glow that it has, because it doesn't create its own light. Whereas the sun is its own flame, its own light. It casts no shadow. It is all knowledge. It's like a matchstick. There's no shadow from the flame. This is knowledge and power. Knowledge transcends time. Knowledge transcends the plane that you're on. This is power. This is wisdom. And so that's why these colors and these planets and so forth have been associated with these undergirdings of human psychology. Okay, the precessional shift occurs at a rate of approximately 1 minute of arc per year. In other words, it's very slow, resulting in a movement of 1 degree every 72 years along the ecliptic, the zodiac's path. This gradual shift means that the vernal equinox moves backward through the constellations, taking centuries to transition from one zodiac sign to another. This precise astrotheological measurement, which takes over 2,000 years, underscores the patience and observational prowess of ancient astronomers, as discussed in section 4, Leisure and Observational Powers, which I mentioned a number of times already in this lecture. The 1 degree shift every 72 years. Think about that, 1 degree every 72 years. symbolizes incremental spiritual evolution, aligning with the theme of long-term cosmic cycles. Now think of this, think of this. Think of how much more you understand about spirituality than people from that time. Think about that. Think about how much more you understand about the chakras, about the third eye, about the inner light, about all of the whole spiritual realm. Think of how much more aware you are now than the Israelites, than the Canaanites. You see, it's Stone Age religiosity or Stone Age spirituality, you could say. They're just beginning to get the grasp, a big grasp, an important grasp, but just beginning. And just like when you're an artist and you're just starting, your paintings are less refined in your early years than when you get into your later years. You shift, you develop over time. And so you paint better, you drive better, you play your instrument better as you spend years with it. This is natural development. You see, and it's the same thing with spirituality. Same thing. And they were just grasping then, and now look at us now. We have an incredible cognizance of the deeper insight. Is it complete? No. Do we know everything? No, far from it. But we certainly know a lot more now than those select few people from the past, because the masses in general, I mean, did the masses go to education? No, they worked in the fields. People weren't educated. They couldn't read or write. Think about it. Who knew? The elites, the authorities. Why the church would not let the Bible out in its first years? It wouldn't even let, only the priest could read it in Latin. And guess what? None of the people spoke Latin. They don't want you to know. They don't want you to know. And so your spirituality now is much more advanced than it was back then. Because of why? Because of things like the internet, because of time, because of influences around us and people who have done study and have read and understand these things very deeply. They can share a deeper insight with you spiritually. A lot like the stuff that I do when it comes to religion. I'm sharing with you another perspective, an alternate point of inspection that allows you to understand what exactly you're looking at better. Doesn't really change much. It just helps you understand, oh, that's what it's really saying. Oh, that's what it's really about. Oh, so this isn't about my liberation. This is actually about my confinement. So you only find that out when you look deeper and deeper into religion. And you find out, well, each one of these things is a capture system. Each one of them. And each one of them is against the other. It's a conflict system. Do you think people in 1955, heck, do you think people way back when knew any of that? Only a select few, like philosophers like Alan Watts and McKenna and Joseph Campbell. A very tight handful of people. The vast majority, the rest of us here, we're growing up in big church. We're growing up under the leadership as it's established the church. None of this is you're deciding for yourself. It's being handed to you. Religion is handed to you. God is handed to you. Self-identity is handed to you. None of these things you chose if you're a part of a religion. But if you think for yourself, you will choose for yourself. And the only way you can think for yourself is if you're not a part of one of those belief systems. Okay. And remember, 17 years of one arc degree, that's one lifetime. And back then, people didn't live that long. The complete processional cycle, known as the Platonic year or the Great Year, spans approximately 25,920 years, during which the equinoctial point traverses all 12 zodiac signs. Each sign occupies roughly 2,160 years, 30 degrees of arc, or 72 years per degree. That tells you how long it takes for our northern celestial point to pass through just one zodiac. 2,160 years. That's why we've been under Pisces for so long, and we're going to look at the Pope's funny hat here in a minute. Matter of fact, it's the next slide, marking distinct world ages that influence cultural and religious paradigms. The Platonic year is a cosmic clock structuring human history into epochs, defined by zodiacal symbolism. Plato's awareness of this cycle in 300 BC highlights its philosophical significance, framing possession as a divine mechanism for spiritual evolution. You guys should be able to follow that completely. I'll keep moving. Here we go. The Pope and his funny hat. In case none of you have gotten an insight into this, prepare for your mouth to hit the ground. The sun's movement through a new zodiac sign every 2,160 years due to precession defines distinct cultural and religious epochs. This is called spiritual regime change. That's why they went from the ram to the to the fish. Look. Yeah, before that's Aries, before that's the bull. Why do you think Marduk is a bull? You ever thought about that? Zodiac sign. Why do you think the Jews blow through a ram's horn? Aries. Why do you think the Pope wears a funny hat? Pisces. Okay? Look, and as a religion, as a Western religionist, did you find out anything about the zodiac growing up? I didn't. And it's the very reason why the Jews are blowing through a ram horn, and it's the very reason why the Pope is wearing a fish head on his head. Now you know. As the vernal equinox shifts from one sign to another, Aries, ram, Pisces, fish. That's why Jesus had 2 fish in the lunchbox. Pisces. It had nothing to do with feeding 5,000. Understand that, folks. Understand, it's a metaphor. Pisces is speaking and feeding the masses. That's what it means. It doesn't mean, hey, how did he make so many fish sandwiches? No, that's called concretizing. You don't want to do that to a mythology. You destroy the mythology when you concretize it into a historic event. You're supposed to look at this as a parable, as a metaphor for a much larger picture, which is what is happening here is this deity is honoring Pisces and is passing the knowledge of Pisces, the knowledge of good and evil, the knowledge of every front has a back to every single person in the masses. He's feeding them. That's what it means. It has nothing to do with physically eating food. That makes it into a joke. The much deeper principle is in the metaphoric principle, the deeper understanding, not in how did he get 5,000 meals out of 2 fish, Frank? I don't understand, man. That's a miracle. No, man. You've completely missed the point. You've completely missed the point if you see the feeding of 5,000 as some type of miracle of fish and bread. Come on, folks. Awareness. Wake up. Wake up. Has nothing to do with feeding people fish. Has everything to do with the zodiac signs and teaching people you are in an anomaly. You are in a wonder. You are in an illusion of black and white. You are in an illusion of everything. Every front has a back. Every in has an out. Every life has death and every death has life. This is illusion. And the teaching, the moral principle at work here, recognize that and embed yourself in it. Eat that as spiritual food and awaken yourself. And look what happened. The Catholic Church turns it into a historical event and destroys the metaphor. Why? Because they don't want you to know the metaphor. They don't want you to be knowing this is a Pisces age. They don't want you to know the deeper principles of the celestial realm and nature. They want you in the dark. It's a story about food, man, and feeding all these people. Isn't it amazing? They all got fish sandwiches. Isn't that incredible? No, it's not. What's incredible is the metaphor. That's what's incredible. That's what's incredible. Don't miss the point. Wake up. Wake up. That's why the Pope's wearing that hat. He's mocking you. This backward motion through the zodiac, opposite to the sun's annual progression, is a key feature of precession's cultural impact. This movement creates a cosmic narrative where each zodiac sign imparts unique qualities to its age, influencing the collective consciousness. You see? That's the bigger picture, the human collect. Instead of figuring out how did Jesus feed all those people fish sandwiches, you can figure out, holy smokes, Frank, we're in the celestial realm. We are in the energy of Pisces. Every front has a back is an illusion, buddy. Then you're getting deep. Now you're growing. Now you're understanding the deeper principle, and you're not satisfied with the garbage that's coming out of the Catholic Church. You're not satisfied with concretized history that no longer fills your belly. And the awakened one understands this, and they see that concretization as a joke. A joke. There's no life-bearing message in feeding 5,000 people in a miracle. There's no life-bearing message. The life-bearing message is the universe that you're embedded in as a nature creature. That's the life-bearing message. And realizing I am in a much larger wonderment than what this church is handing me. And I'm part and parcel of that wonderment. I'm not a sinner. I'm not fallen. I'm perfect as is, just like the whale, just like the tree, just like the sky. You ever seen a wrong whale? You ever seen a wrong cloud? You ever seen one that's wrong? You ever seen a wrong sunset? You ever seen one? Never seen one myself. Why are you any different? Why are you any different than the sunset, than the clouds, than the tree? You're a nature creature, friend. Stand and recognize yourself. Stop being mocked by these clowns that are mocking you and betraying you and telling you need to be anointed. You need to be forgiven. They're just controlling you. The human collective orients its shift to solar deities and heroic narratives, illustrating the procession's role in shaping religious symbolism. That's actually the god, the Dagon god of the Philistines. Do you realize that? That hat, that fish hat that the Pope still wears to this very day is in honor of a fish god from the Canaanites. Who do you think the Catholic Church is worshiping? It ain't Jesus. It ain't Jesus. Dagon was a Semitic deity worshipped primarily by the Amorites, the Canaanites. Oh, and look at that, the Philistines. His name likely derives from the Semitic root grain. In Mesopotamian context, Dagon was a high-ranking god, and he was a prominent deity in the ancient Levant and Mesopotamia, often associated with agriculture, fertility, and storms. That sounds like El, the god that most likely preceded Dagon in the Levantine context. That's El, the chief deity of the Canaanite pantheon. Remember studying El, the storm god, whom they sacrificed people so that El, the storm god, would not bring the great storms and wouldn't harm them and would be appeased by the life they're giving the god. Do you remember? Folks, look who's still practicing. Look who's still practicing the Canaanite pantheon, the very people that handed you the Bible. Look, they're still practicing. Nothing changed. They're still practicing Canaanite God worship. And these are the very people that told you were a sinner. Do you really think they're telling you the truth? Do you think they're telling you the truth? Do you think the words they put in the Bible is Jesus's words? Do you think those words are the truth? How do you know Jesus said those words? You don't. You don't know it. You were handed that book. You were handed that Bible by a bunch of pedophiles that worship fish gods from the Philistines. Sorry to blow your bubble today, but that's the way it is. That's why he's wearing that hat, folks. They put it right in front of your face to mock you. That's why they do it. Right in your face, so that you never see it. It's so close, you can't see it. It's mind control. It comes out of the Phoenicians and it comes out of the Khazarians. That's where it comes out of. Evil, Satanism. That's who told you you're a sinner. Satan told you you're a sinner. That's who told you. Okay, El's primacy in the Levant, where Dagon later became prominent among the Canaanites and Philistines, is supported by Ugaritic textual evidence and archaeological findings. In Mesopotamia, El is the most relevant predecessor to Dagon, given Dagon's primary association, of course, with the Levant. And where do we know all the Israelites come from? They come from the Levant. This conclusion accounts for the cultural and historical evolution of religious practices. I don't know if I'd call that evolution. In the regions where Dagon was worshipped. You see, you've been cheated. I'm sorry. You've been cheated. You've been cheated out of your sovereignty. You've been cheated out of who you are. I'm sorry. Everything you believe is a lie. All your religion, everything you believe, it's a lie. You're not fallen. There's no heaven or hell. You're not doomed. You've been lied to. Sorry. The 2,160-year periods are termed ages, each named after the zodiac sign hosting the vernal equinox. The Aries age, circa 2000 BC to 0 AD, is characterized by lamb symbolism. The Pisces age, 0 AD to present, is marked by fish symbolism. And the forthcoming Aquarius age, water, anticipated to bring themes of what? Connectivity, knowledge, unity. Look at the far right tarot card, friend. That's the age you're walking into. What is the divine doing? Pouring out knowledge on land and sea, the underworld and the illusory world. Under the stars of the cosmos, naked because it's honest and true. That's why, folks, that's why this movement into the Aquarian age, that's why this is happening. The energy is changing. Look, you are living in the testimony. Do you realize that? You are living in the testimony of the celestial skies. You are an active member and part of that. Do you realize that? When you begin to realize you're that and not a sinner, you won't believe. You won't believe how much wider your cognizance and awareness will become. You don't feel like you have to be forgiven. Church did that to shame you. Shamed people don't think for themselves. They bow and apologize. These ages define spiritual paradigms, and they profoundly influence religious iconography and beliefs. Essentially, the ages are divine epochs governed by zodiacal archetypes that shape humanity's relationship with the divine. Absolutely. The transition between ages, such as from Pisces to Aquarius, is seen as a spiritual turning point, aligning with precession as a transformative force. Is it not? Are you not transforming right now? The precession of the equinox, the precession of your consciousness. You are moving out of a dualistic Pisces idea, and you're moving into a wisdom and outpouring idea of knowledge from the Aquarian. You're living the testimony, folks. You are living in the testimony of the skies, of the universe. You are in it. You are in it. And it's simply a matter of seeing it. That's it. You just have to see it. That's why concretizing myths keep you from seeing the deeper truth at work. Do they not? How many of you, I did, how many of you lived your entire life believing the feeding of the 5,000 came from this amazing miracle from Jesus, from 2 fish and 5 loaves? How many of you grew up your whole life thinking that? Your whole life. And the whole metaphor had nothing to do with that. It was pointing at the celestial realm. It was pointing at your inner spirit. It was pointing at the duality that you are embedded in. It was pointing at such larger pictures. And what happened? All of us Christians are all caught up, or were caught up in this whole, wow, this miracle that Jesus did. It doesn't relate to you at all, does it? How much does it relate to you? How much does it relate to you when you realize that that metaphor is speaking directly to me, not to those 5,000 people and to not some idea about Jesus? It's speaking to me. It's speaking into the celestial realm in which I am embedded. How heavy duty is that then? How much heavier? How much more meaningful? How much more embedding does that story become when it moves out of the historical record and moves into the mythological ontology? How much more meaning does it have? 10 times. Because it directly relates you to the cosmos. And as a nature creature, you're going to feel pretty darn good relating yourself to the nature world. That's your food. That's your spiritual, intellectual food that will keep you engaged and motivated. It's all about identity. It's all about identity. cultural and religious implications. Each zodiac sign's 30-degree arc is subdivided into smaller units, decans, 10 degrees each, 3 per sign, and single degrees, 1 degree every 72 years. In some traditions, like Hindu astrology, degrees are further divided into minutes and seconds. You guys have heard that before when it comes to astrology, creating an intricate celestial clock, obviously. These subdivisions allowed ancient astronomers to track precession with precision, associating specific cultural or religious events with particular degrees or decans. These subdivisions reflect the zodiac's complexity, also your complexity, where each segment carries nuanced symbolic meanings. This detailed framework enabled cultures to align rituals. Here it is, embedding themselves in the natural order, enabled cultures to align rituals, myths, and prophecies with cosmic cycles, reinforcing astrotheology's role as a universal spiritual language. Do you see how astrotheology then embeds you into it? Into it. No need for forgiveness. You are in it. It is your birthright. This is yours. This is yours. No one has to hand it to you. You don't have to be forgiven. You don't have to do anything but merit it. And you merit it by engaging yourself, giving yourself to life. Risk, because no knowledge is free. No knowledge is free. If you ever expect life to get easy, complacent, and so on and so forth, at that moment, all growth will stop. The life well lived is the life of pursuing, not out of anxiety, out of joy. And what gives you joy to pursue? When you align and identify with the larger meaning, the larger context, the larger mythology at work. That's when you get the will to live. That's what inspires you. Not because you're forgiven, not because you're going to heaven, not because you're worshiping the right God. Those do not fulfill. They placiate. They placiate you. They emaciate you. They make you hungrier. That's why the Christian fidgets with their religion their entire life, because it makes you hungry. You're living in anxiety. You're living by clutching to belief, because it's belief that gets you into heaven. That's the state of anxiety. Belief is the state of anxiety. There is no need for belief. None. Conviction's nothing wrong with that. Belief is something you're holding to and demanding. Do you see? And what gets you into heaven? Belief. Believing the right God, believing you're a sinner, believing you need forgiveness. That's what gets you into heaven. It's all belief, which is what? Anxiety. Anxiety. That's why you think you need the religion, because you're anxious, because the religion has told you to be anxious because you're going to hell if you don't believe right. See? Do you see that? Can you see that? Sorry to jump. Can you see that? The religion itself puts you into anxiety. It doesn't liberate you. It puts you into anxiety. It puts you into the historical record with its metaphors, where you've got to believe and so on and so forth. I could keep going. Let's keep going. Sorry. Each zodiac sign's 30-degree arc is... I already read this. Okay. Now, next section. Sun worship and symbolism. Here we go. I've got a knee shooter slide at the end of this, and we're just a few away. Oh, awesome. It's only 7. We've got an hour. Wow. Chat is going to be amazing. Okay. There is a near universal veneration of the sun across ancient cultures, highlighting its significance in diverse traditions. The Pythagoreans, a Greek philosophical school circa 6th century BC. Remember, I talked about all the universities, folks. Remember the mystery schools greeted the dawn with hymns celebrating the sun as a symbol of cosmic harmony and divine light. In Hinduism, the sun god, Surya, is revered as the source of life, depicted riding a chariot across the sky. Sounds like Helios, doesn't it? In texts like the Rig Veda. In ancient China, the sun was an imperial symbol representing the emperor's divine mandate from heaven, with solar imagery adorning palaces and rituals. This widespread reverence reflects the sun's tangible role as the sustainer of life, visible in its daily rising and seasonal cycles. Isn't that beautiful? In astrotheology, the sun is a supreme archetype, embodying The divine principle of what? Of creation and order, uniting cultures through a shared recognition of its cosmic centrality. And isn't it interesting how many metaphors between the Son and Jesus line up? He brings insight. The Son brings insight. Jesus was shown as a light. The Son is a light. The Son is recognized as wise and pure, and Jesus was recognized as wise and pure. You see? That's why they made the Son of God the Son of God. Hopefully you can understand that. Agrarian societies particularly honored the sun for its critical role in agriculture, of course, driving the cycles of planting and harvesting. So, of course, it's a god because it's growing all their food. That's what these ancient peoples think. They don't understand radiation. They don't understand light waves. Understand this. It's a miracle to these people because they notice, wow, those plants that don't have this light from the sky, they don't grow. But these plants that are exposed to this light, they grow. They have no idea that has to do with radiation, the Calvin cycle, converting CO2 to sugars. They don't know that chemistry. They're looking at it as a miracle. And this is how you can know you are more advanced in your awareness than they are, because you know technologically how this stuff is working. And that's why it seems so much like, and so many people don't realize, you're in a wonder. Because science has come along and describe, and that takes away the wonderment in the same way knowing the trick takes away the aura of the magician. Knowledge does that. That's why that's happening. That's the psychology behind all of it. And that's why it's important. Did I read all of this slide? Hang on. Did I read all of this? This one here. No, I didn't. Okay. In ancient Egypt, the sun god Ra was linked to the Nile's fertility, while in Mesoamerican cultures, the Maya associated solar cycles with maize cultivation. This agrarian connection grounded sun worship in practical reality. Don't you think? Don't you know it? But it also elevated the sun to a spiritual symbol of life's continuity. Can't you see it? In astrotheology, the sun's agricultural role mirrors its metaphysical function as the nurturer of souls, fostering both physical and spiritual growth across cultures. Do you see how the sun does that? The Son of God. Do you see how it does that? It nurtures you. It feeds you. It warms your skin. It brings you warmth. It changes the seasons. Now, if you didn't understand all the science, every single one of those things I just said are miracles to the ancient person. And this is why they had such reverence. This is why they saw the sun as a god, because they didn't understand the plasma science behind it. They didn't understand helium and oxygen and these burning chemicals that make it do that. They just saw it as this unbelievable, non-ending light that's in the sky that brings all of life about. And that's why they worshiped it. That's why they gave it anthropomorphism. They gave it human characteristics like wisdom, knowledge, sharing the truth. You see, because the metaphysic and the physic back then were completely intermingled. It's science and sociology that has divided things out. But back then, those people lived in a constant wonder, like, holy smokes, like this thing is incredible. Like I am in some kind of clockwork. This is unbelievable. You see, and your reverence for it disappears the more magic you learn. That's why when you learn how things work and so on and so forth, your awe and wonder of it diminishes because you're finding out more and more. That's why pursuing life is so important, because there's always more to experience. And if you get settled into the life that you're in, that becomes the life of the mundane, and that's not going to be fulfilling to you. You have to take initiative, and this will bring about the fulfillment, because nature's not going to hand you fulfillment. Nature's not going to hand you anything. You're going to have to go out and get it. And that's why it's important to know some of this stuff, because it embeds you in the nature that you are, and the beauty that that is, holds you in a state of reverence for yourself and others and the world. In a real sense, the sun, as the eye of God, is a potent symbol in various traditions. In Egyptian mythology, the eye of Horus, a solar symbol, represented protection and divine vision, often depicted as a radiant orb. Similarly, the Bible references the sun as God's celestial dwelling place, and Malachi calls Messiah the Son of Righteousness. These metaphors portray, see, they're metaphors. They're not facts, they're metaphors. The eye of Horus as the sun is a metaphor. The eye of God as the sun is a metaphor for divine vision, representing protection. It lights so that you're not in the darkness, so that you can see, you can hunt and protect yourself. You see? Similarly, these metaphors portray the sun as a divine observer, illuminating and overseeing creation. In astrotheology, the sun's all-seeing nature signifies divine consciousness, penetrating the darkness of ignorance. This symbolic interpretation elevates sun worship beyond physical adoration, aligning it with spiritual insight and universal awareness. Good? Okay, we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 left. We'll plow through and then we'll go to questions. Awesome. Ancient sun worship was not about venerating the physical sun, but rather what it represented: light, consciousness, and divine presence. The sun was a symbol of a universal principle, not a literal deity. Not a literal deity. The sun principle associated with clarity, as I mentioned just a minute ago, clarity, wisdom, and life, transcended cultural boundaries. See, when you transcend the history, you transcend the cultural boundaries. That's why it's so important not to concretize metaphors, making the sun a universal emblem of spiritual awakening, no matter the age, and I should add, no matter the culture. That's why the Hindus are worshiping the sun, the Romans worshiping the sun, the Canaanites worshiping the sun, the Jews worshiping the Son of God. You get it? You get it? They're all understanding the deeper principle at work. That's why they're doing that. The sun's symbolic role as light and consciousness underscored its function as a mediator between the divine and human realms. And isn't that what you do? You engage in life and its function in the fake duality, but then also you are in a walking meditation, Zen. You're mimicking. Think about it. You're mimicking the behavior and metaphors of the sun. You yourself, in just living life. And when you can see this, when you can see this, this motivates you because you're identifying through the celestial realm. You're identifying through much larger bodies than yourself and realizing that you are much larger than you appear to be. Your metaphysic, your deeper meaning, your consciousness. These all transcend this skin boundary. Transcend it. Just like the meaning of the sun transcends its yellow color. It's a deeper principle at work. Okay. Esoteric meaning and celestial phenomena. Okay, next slide. Pythagoras' definition of God was, this is great, follow this, was great, was a being whose body is composed of the substance of light and whose spirit is composed of the substance of truth. That's you. You understand? You come from the stars, the sun, and you are composed of truth. Are you not? Is not your experience, your personal experience, the greatest truth you can possibly know? Because it's the only truth you can know. What is this saying right here? What did Pythagoras say? Was this guy on the money? The body is composed of the substance of light. It is the sun that grows the plants that you eat that keep you alive, and whose spirit is composed of the substance of truth. And that's your inner knowingness. That's the moon. That's your intellecty. The self-organizing, unspeakable that is in and apart and in and of you. The intellecty. It is what self-organizes your life. The more you realize, the more you raise your consciousness. This is your intellecty developing. It's the divine magnetism that is pulling you into development. It's absolutely beautiful freaking concepts, man. I just love this stuff. Okay. For this philosophical view encapsulates the sun's dual role as a physical source of light and a metaphysical embodiment of truth. For Pythagoreans, the sun was the cosmic center, harmonizing the universe through its radiance and order, as articulated in their heliocentric cosmology. In astrotheology, this definition aligns with the sun's role as a divine archetype, radiating truth and illuminating the path to enlightenment. And what is that, folks? That's the Marga. That's the marga that leads to the den of the animal. That's to your heart. And you follow the metaphors of the sun, it leads straight to your heart, because that's the sun's source inside you. It provides an intellectual foundation for sun worship, linking it to broader metaphysical inquiries about existence and divinity. The use of gold to represent the sun in artifacts reflects its radiant and incorruptible nature. Gold solar discs, amulets, and medallions were common in Egypt, Greek, and Mesoamerican cultures, symbolizing divine power. Military decorations, such as the Roman Croix d'Honneur or medieval rosettes, originated as solar symbols. Did you know Luther's rose is a solar symbol? Whoops. Did the Christians know that? It's a solar symbol, folks, that is reflecting back to the radiance of Ra, the sun god. You ever thought about that? Something to think about. Okay. These artifacts and symbols are designed to connect the material and divine, using the sun's brilliance to effectuate sacredness and authority across cultures. Crowns are solar coronets with rays emanating outward, like the sun's corona, symbolizing divine sovereignty. In ancient cultures such as Egypt and Persia, royal crowns featured solar motifs, linking rulers to celestial power. In Christianity, the symbolism was adapted, with the crown of thorns transforming into a glorified crown, as seen in depictions of Christ as king. You see? They're using this symbolism against you. They're not using it to awaken you. They're using it for you to focus on an iconized individual, not on yourself. Follow that. They're using the sun symbolism not so that you will look to the deeper principle, but that you will look to this man who died for you because you're a sinner. Concretization. They don't want you realizing this is actually a solar symbol that predates this whole event thing that the Romans put into place to keep everybody guilty and in shame and seeking forgiveness, seeking anointment, and being in the right group. Concretization. That's why I said the church is responsible. They did this. They put this into the society. They twisted the entire thing. Let's see. The Christian adaptation reflects a synthesis of ancient solar symbolism and theological themes, portraying Christ as the ultimate solar deity, the God that failed, characterized as death from life. Here are sun gods across cultures: Balder in Nordic mythology, Apollo, and Helios in Greek tradition. See, it's all, these are anthropomorphisms of the sun. You see the bird, bottom right, Ra, the sun over him, that's an anthropomorphism representing the sun. That's not an actual bird man. That's a symbol to represent the sun. Now look above that, Helios. See the horses and the chariot? And Helios is traveling across the sky. That is not to show there's some dude with a bunch of reindeer who's crossing the sky every day. No, this is to represent the sun. It's a metaphor. And same with these other symbols. The Nordic symbol, notice how the sun looks like a Viking. Isn't it interesting how the Viking god, their sun looks like a Viking, and how the Greek god's sun looks like a Greek? And the Egyptian's god's sun looks like Egyptian artwork. Have you noticed that? They're not, in other words, they're not drawing actual characters. They're drawing metaphors, representations, so that when you see that character, you will meditate upon the deeper principles the character represents. It's not about the character. It's not about Helios going across the sky. It's not about some dude dying for you. It has nothing to do with any of that. These are symbols for deeper principles of the sun, which goes back further and further, because the sun brings life. The sun brings the seasons. The sun feeds you. The sun feeds your family. And these cultures simply, folks, are just pointing back to that. 2 more slides and we're done. Light symbols, such as candles, torches, and Christmas tree lights, were derived from solar worship, representing the sun's enduring warmth, action, and presence. Candles in ancient rituals dispelled darkness, symbolizing hope, while torches guided initiates through the dark tunnels of the mystery, writes, Christmas tree lights. Did you know this? Christmas tree lights adorning the evergreen world tree. That's actually the Yggdrasil tree. That's what the Christmas tree is. That's where it comes from. Evokes the sun's rebirth at the winter solstice. That's because that's why they use the pine tree, because the pine is green in the winter, a tradition rooted in pagan solar festivals. These light symbols bridge the physical and spiritual, embodying the sun's role as a source of divine illumination. They serve as reminders of cosmic cycles, fostering a sense of continuity and renewal. And I know you guys have seen the Yggdrasil tree. Here's the big slide. Everybody, take a gulp of water. I've got yet another pro tip. Put it in your pipe and smoke it. Moment with Chuck. So if you got your cigars, joints, pipes, light them up. Here we go. Sun gods are frequently depicted as slayers of evil and darkness, overcoming chaos to restore order. Apollo slays the serpent Python, casting it into a ravine, while Balder's death by mistletoe leads to a cosmic mourning but eventual renewal. Isn't it interesting how all these other ancient religions have a death and rebirth? They all do. These myths reflect the sun's daily triumph over night. There's your death and rebirth. And its annual victory over winter. There's your death and rebirth, embodying the eternal struggle between light and darkness. Now, what I want you to notice is this whole death and rebirth metaphor has nothing to do with a person. It's a metaphor for the sun that brings you light every day, that gives you life, for the sun that blasts away the winter and brings the spring, summer, and fall, where there's warmth and you can grow your food. That's what they're pointing towards, not towards a person. Astrotheologically, here's the money. Astrotheologically, this role positions sun gods as redemptive figures. Sun gods as redemptive figures whose battles symbolize spiritual enlightenment and the soul's liberation from ignorance. In other words, the God is you. The God in the metaphor is you. You're the one who faces the trials which burn you and make you stronger. You're the one who risks yourself so that you will fail and become wiser. From death comes life. You are the metaphor, friend. They wanted to iconize, they being the Catholic Church, wanted to iconize individuals so that you would never identify as them. How about them apples? There's your psychology. Let's keep going. The narrative of conquest over evil became a Western religious motif by appropriating Greek. Notice, appropriating Greek ideals of, notice the word, of liberation through personal initiation, action and sacrifice, trial and physical order. Now that's personal initiation, and this is what the Greeks were teaching at the mystery schools. It is through your initiation that you develop the responsibility necessary to handle the wisdom that comes with the initiation. There's a process here, folks. It's not imagined. You go through it. That's why they gave everyone the Kikion. You are going to go through this experience mentally, and it's going to change you forever. You must go through the trial, not someone else. Not stealing their valor, like I talked about last week. That's not it. You didn't come here to steal someone else's valor. You came here to merit your own, friend. You came here to merit your own. And they don't want you to know that because it awakens you. Here we go. Through personal initiation, action and sacrifice, trial and physical ordeal, into, this is what the church did, into a theological discourse. So it's no longer you're actually doing it. It's a theological discourse, meaning belief prescriptions for liberation, not of liberation. Do you see the difference? It's a difference between a story and the story. Here we have of liberation for liberation, you see. And you're supposed to get it, according to the church, through belief and anointment. What do we know about anointment? Atonement from God for only the elect. In other words, you approach this God, the church's God, bowing and prostrate, conditioned and believing so that you are in the in group. One invites, this is the tough line at the bottom, one invites awareness through initiation, the other through institutionalization. What do you believe? If I put you in a belief trap, I've institutionalized you. Because the only world you're going to see is the one you believe, the one that I've put into you. And so when the church came along and they put a fallen world into you, they put a sinner's idea into you, you see? And none of that was your own self-discovery. That was put into you. So you didn't go through the trials to liberate yourself. You went through an indoctrination to indoctrinate you, to, as I just said, to institutionalize you, to get you locked in the belief so you never leave the farm. You've been institutionalized. If you're unwilling to leave the religious space that you're in, you're institutionalized. Period. Period. You're institutionalized. If you are unwilling to let go of a belief system, you're institutionalized. Every single thing in life, every single belief you have, you hold loosely. You don't cling to it. You hold loosely as an idea. It's a thought. It's a concept. Nice. Moving on. In other words, you're growing. The institution doesn't want you growing. Do you really think the U.S. government, any government for that sake, do you think any of them want you growing? Do you really think they want you becoming healthier? Look at what they feed you. Have you noticed, as they have tried to improve the food systems for America, have you noticed all the people who are fighting that? Have you noticed all the government officials that are fighting the betterment of our food? They don't want people to have better food. They're fighting against it. Have you noticed that? Have you noticed they're fighting to keep fluoride in your water? Have you noticed that? They don't want to take the fluoride away. They want to keep dumbing you down. They want to keep you stupid. You see, none of these things have anything to do with your betterment. None. None. That's why you got to wake up. You got to wake up. And that's your job. That's your responsibility. Nobody can wake you up. That's your job. Okay, that was the last slide. Awesome. Awesome, dude. This is fantastic. I should have started at 5 earlier. Okay, now as we go to comments, holy smokes, 500 comments. Now, as we go to comments, something you guys need to know about next week. My parents are celebrating their 70th wedding anniversary, and they've invited us kids, the siblings, on a cruise with them to spend with them. I haven't seen my parents in 10 years, and I can't wait to see them. And so they've invited us on this trip. And so Jenny and I are going to be flying down to Seattle, and we're going to hop on board the cruise ship, and we're going to cruise with my parents for a week. This would probably be some of the last times I have with my dad. It's really going to be a heavy trip. And so I won't have a show next Saturday. There's not going to be a show. And we get back the following Saturday. So for 2 shows now, 2 Saturdays, I'm not going to be here. I'm going to be with my folks. So just so you guys know, there's not going to be anything going on. There's nothing going on next Saturday. Let me give you the dates so that everybody's on the same page. So there will be no show. Today is the 28th. So there's no show on the 5th of July and the 12th of July. Okay, I'll have no show. Okay, I might send you pictures and stuff and all that, but there's no way I can prepare for the show because I can't take the computer or anything. I'm not going to do that, and I don't want to spend my freaking vacation with my parents staring at a computer screen. So for the next 2 weeks, I won't have a show, and then I'll be back on the 19th. Okay, and then I'll do shows on the 19th and 26th, and then the week after that is our gig up here. Remember, here, look, in case you guys, some of you are late, where I'm having a get together here. Okay, now that's going to be on August 2nd at 3 p.m. Okay, and I talk about it at the beginning of the video. If you want more information, check back to the beginning of the video after we end here. But those are the dates you guys need to know. Oh, and for those that came late, this is the mountain we're going to go up on. That Table Mountain right across there. Here's some of the views from it. That's from actually on top of Table Mountain right there. That's from Artist Point. You see, these are pictures. This is where we're going to be. It is stunning. The place is unbelievable. It's like the Swiss Alps. Okay. That's where we're going to be. So the date for that is August 2nd. So again, no show on July 5th. You guys will be probably partying for July 4 anyways, but no show on July 5th and no show on July 12th. And I wanted to ask you guys something. This is something I wanted to cover and I forgot. How many of you, I'm going to go to comments. I've really wanted to ask you guys this question for a while. How many of you that are in comments right now and are watching this video, okay, how many of you really think we're on the precipice of the Great Awakening, like there's about to be a flip? Meaning the UFO thing's going to come out, religion's going to die, the money systems are going to flip to digital, there's going to be a whole revaluation that happens for a lot of people that are invested in currencies, all of that stuff. How many of you, because I want to listen to the collective, how many of you think we're on the brink of that happening? I mean, are you seeing what's happening in government and what's happening in the Middle East? Folks, they're having peace negotiations. I mean, they're having no fires. I mean, this is incredible. Okay, so here you guys are answering. Okay. Absolutely. Yes. Hand up. Yes. Thank you, Esoteric. I appreciate that, love. Absolutely. Here we go. Ginger. No, you're not optimistic on it. Okay. Ginger, I would love to know. Hang on. I want to just see. It's been happening. Yeah, I agree. It's been happening. It's been happening for a long time. It's been happening since the death of JFK. Yep. Heard it. QFS, 100% awakening. I do. Yes. Look at you guys. Most of you guys are actually pretty positive. 5 by 5. No, it's all effed. Okay, Jazz. Zionist attack Christian chunk. Okay. I do. So awareness just, okay. Ginger, I am genuinely curious, love. What do you think is about to happen then? Do you think we're all screwed? I genuinely want to know. Do you really think we're totally screwed? It's about to be World War III and most of us are going to die? Yes, I know that. All the agenda, yeah, I know that. Those are all awakening agendas. That's all part of it. I'm talking about past that. Do you think we're still in the play? Those are all part of it. Chemtrailing, vaccines, agendas, right? Those are all part of it. And so I'm curious, watching what you, of course, we're screwed. Okay. Another way controls. Okay, so what is y'all's existential? Like dirty ketchup when you say, of course, we're screwed. Okay, what's your existential? Then you're just going to die? Is that what you think? Seriously, you think we're just doomed? I'm genuinely curious. No comment. Come on. Talk to me. What's your existential? Okay, so what's in it? No, nobody's fearing. I'm certainly not fearing death. I don't know where that went. Here, yeah, here. I'm certainly not fearing death at all. We'll be hit by money watching a movie. Yeah. Okay. Well, I'm genuinely curious for people. I'm genuinely curious for people who think we're hosed. We're hosed. That's what I'm asking, Ginger. What's your existential? Like, if you think that we're just going down, like this is just going to continue, we're just going to continue to be poisoned, the government, it's just all going to stay the same, and it's all going to go to World War III, and basically most everyone's going to die. Is that your existential? Like, you think that's why we're all awakening? You think you think all this connectivity and development of the human society and each individual person, you think it's all for naught? You think it's all just BS? You don't see like the zodiac and that in Aquarius, the society, the energy is learning and wisdom and becoming and awareness, and you think all that's bunk? Our awareness is everybody finding out and then we die? That's your existential? No, I don't claim to know what happens after death. I'm asking, what's your existential? Here, this is interesting. From 9mm. Okay, I'm as perplexed as you are on these people. They simply are not paying attention and are stuck in negativity and fear and dread. I don't know how to help them. Okay, I'm so happy you wrote that. Okay, that's exactly what I'm trying to do here. Okay, I'm trying to help people understand, okay, fine, you want to believe that we're all screwed. Okay, well then what's your existential then? You think we're just effed? Like they're just going to die? Right in the beginning of the Aquarian age, when all of the energy from ancient cultures are telling us we're in the moment of awakening. This is a time when humankind is, where all of nature is going to become more and more aware, because that's the energy that's coming. Do you think that's just bunk? You're okay. Good, Kate. Here, Katie. Here, you. Okay, it's my observation we are heading in a bad direction. It's supposed to look like that, so you believe you're going to die. You're supposed to believe you're going to die. That's why you're supposed to believe that you're going to die, so that you will awaken. It is when you confront death, it is when you confront the ending of you, that you finally awaken to the bigger principle. That's why they're dragging it out. Something extraterrestrial will have to say, okay, so this is your existential. So your existential, Ginger, is that we're all going to be saved that are too evil. Yeah, so in other words, someone's going to come and save us? You think that? You think someone's going to come down and save us? Because I think it's a bigger responsibility than that. Nobody, okay, listen. Is anyone going to awaken if someone just comes down and saves them? Do you awaken? Do you change? When some high authority just comes in, descends in, picks you up out of your problem, here you go, all good, brother, and then sets you down in this wonderful posh life or whatever. Did you learn anything? If you are really bad with money and finances, and someone hands you $10 million, does that make you financially accountable? Does that make you financially wise? No. Does it make the society any more aware, any more smart, if just some alien force comes in and says, okay, everybody, we're just going to all save you from your poor decisions? Who learns anything? Don't we as a society, honestly, don't we have to grow up as individuals in order to live in the Great Awakening? Because if you're just going to try to bring in the old world and just say, no, I just want it the way it used to be when I was growing up, I just want it all going back to that, is that the Great Awakening? Because the world you've been growing up with, the world we've been living in, has been taken over by Satanists. We've been genetically modified. Okay, we're eating poison. Our skies are being poisoned. You see? That is such a brilliant line. Oh my God. Yes, that's why they want everyone stupid. Because it's easier that way. You think knowledge makes life easier? Seeing the deeper principle just makes it a sleigh ride? No way. It's when you're stupid that you think it's a sleigh ride. I'm not calling you stupid, Ginger. I'm saying it's when we were stupefied, when we were institutionalized and didn't know any better. You see, that's when we stayed in it. What happened when we left the institution? When we left the farm, what happened? You awaken. You're not buying it anymore. Well, what is the Great Awakening then? Is the Great Awakening just everyone being saved and here you go? Or is the Great Awakening everyone saving themselves? Meaning, wake up. Wake up. You see? Yes, they are. They are easy to control, Ginger. They are. That's why what is happening is a big deal. Okay, then what's your existential then, love? Don't believe the lies of peace, Chuck. Okay, so what's your existential? We're all screwed? Just so I don't believe the lies and I just depend on some alien race coming down? How is that growth? Yeah. These are just good questions, you know? I'm not prosing. Okay, listen, I'm not asking and posing and speaking on these things because I think I have all the answers. I'm just saying, in order for me to be in the right mind, if I'm just seeing doom ahead, that's all I'm seeing is just completely screwed. How right in the mind can I become if all I'm seeing in the future is we're screwed? Or somebody come and help me. How self-empowering is that? It's not. We have to awaken. That is the awakening process. The society must awaken, or we're just going to go right back to waiting for someone to control and save us. Just like all the Christians are doing. They are waiting for Jesus to come back and save them. And to me, that's not responsible. It's not responsible. It's not responsible. You're just taking a belief system that was made by pedophiles and losers, and you're just trying to apply that to the Great Awakening. And I'm like, how does that make sense? How does it make sense to think, well, my God's going to come back, so everyone that believes like me gets saved and screw everybody else? How humane is that? That it's all about you. It's all about your religion. It's all about what you believe and what you think. And that's what the Great Awakening is? Is that a Great Awakening, or is that just myopia? Glorified myopia? Honestly, you have to have a vector, a telos, that is larger than what they're handing you. And what are they handing you right now? You're doomed. You're screwed. And so when you believe that, you become that. You're a sinner, so you believe you're a sinner and you act like a sinner. So if you think right now the world is doomed, we're screwed, we're all going to go down and blah, 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 you're believing exactly what the programmers told you. Is that wise? Is that wise? Or is it wiser to leave the farm, no longer believe the programmers, and think for your freaking self and look for evidence like what I'm doing? Look for evidence that clarifies the situation so that you know it's a metaphor when they talk about Jesus feeding 5,000 with 2 fish, and you're not thinking, oh, that was a historical event. How much growth am I experiencing thinking it's just a historical event? It's just a historical event that happened before. Or this is an initiation for me to realize a larger picture that I'm in. Which is growth? Is it growth to be sitting in dependence waiting for some alien race to come save you? Is that growth? No. Growth is becoming aware. So that might happen. Okay, fine. So that might happen. Great. What's your job right now? Awareness. So that if those aliens do come, you don't act like you did that brought you to the need to be saved. It doesn't matter which way you cut this pie, and I cut it many different ways. It doesn't matter which way you cut it. The self-responsible position, the self-responsible ethos is education, awareness, growth, walking into the space, fearlessness, not listening to the Catholic Church, not listening to the government authorities, not listening to the books that they've handed to you, but simply taking them as observations along the way so that you'll be wiser, but putting your life in none of them. None of them. And you simply act from a self-responsible position where, hey, I'm going to do everything I can to be wise and to shine a light on my community around me because I can control that. I can control that. Can I control if they go to digital? Nope. Can I control it if they're putting all the poison in the sky? Nope. Can I control the poison that they're putting in the food? Nope. I can just make my own food and grow my own food. Can't control what they're going to do. My job is to become aware of what they're doing and then put myself in a place to bring about change where I can. To me, that's self-responsible. But believing the narrative they've handed you that we're all screwed, believing the narrative they've handed you that you have to be saved, that you're not good enough, that you're not smart enough, that you're too sinful, is that a good plan? Belief? These are good questions. I think these are good questions. I think that's the kind of stuff that helps people grow. Yeah, good call. That's just called discernment. Yes, they are. Yes, they are. And that's Raven Blue, it's great to see you again. I didn't see you last week. It's great to see you again. Yes, they are following their biblical script. Exactly. And I've told you who wrote the Bible, and I told you what they're doing to people. I've told you that. Chuck, I think you must be a stickler for the Star Trekian Prime Directive. Thank you for that, Tom. That was great. Thank you so much for that. I love people with sense of humor. Okay. Bingo. There's a good comment right there. Thank you, Metal Face. They are actively attempting to bring about prophecy. Exactly, because when people all believe the prophecy you told them, guess what happens? The prophecy becomes fulfilled because the people believe it and they act it out for you. That's why thinking that Jesus is going to come down and save you, you're believing the prophecy they handed you so that you'll remain complacent and waiting. That's why. You have to think for yourself and think, you know what? That's not responsible. That's not responsible for me to just buy into this narrative they've handed me and then to just assume that's my vector. That's not responsible. You are handing your brain to someone else. Is it ever responsible to hand your brain to the catechism? Is it ever responsible to hand your brain to science, to Dr. Fauci? Is that ever a good idea? No. Think for yourself. Honestly, think for yourself. Okay. They are brainwashed. I agree with you, Ginger. They are brainwashed. And this is how you de-brainwash yourself. You de-institutionalize yourself by thinking differently, by looking at the historical record and saying, you know what, I've got a different opinion than what these clowns have said. I have a very big different opinion. That's why after watching this video, you're going to know all about the Phoenicians and the Khazarians joining together to take over the world. The money and spiritual components. That's all you need. That's all you need. You got the money, that's the material wealth. You got the spiritual components, the evil, that's the religious or the spiritual side. And when you've captured both and you hand everyone your story based on your Phoenician and Khazarian mafia principles, guess what? Guess what? They take over the world because everyone believes them. And when you believe your authorities, guess what? You're a slave to your authorities. Okay, I'm not seeing any questions. Okay. Who's telling fortunes, Blake? If you think tarot is telling the fortunes of the future, you have missed the point, my friend, completely. You have been brainwashed by the church about them. That's why you're afraid of them and you think of them that way. That's why you think that. You've been programmed to think that. You don't realize the symbolism on those cards reflects the symbolism that is within you and that is in the celestial realm. And it is simply gathering insight, gathering wisdom and understanding from a source that isn't programming you, namely the church and government and doctors. It's not fortune telling, Blake. You've missed the boat. You've missed the boat on that one, friend. You've missed it. Here, who's this? What's this? Evan Almighty Revenge. Here we go. Are Khazarians the direct lineage of Cain? Most likely. Is Cain the child of the devil? Possibly. And Eve. Yeah, that's a metaphor, in my opinion. The Garden of Eden is a metaphor of the bringing of humankind into the dualistic sphere, the good and evil sphere, and it's all metaphor. When you look at the Garden of Eden as the historical record, you are concretizing something that was meant to be a metaphor. These are metaphors. The Garden of Eden is a metaphor for a deeper principle of knowledge and truth. That's what I think. And no, I don't think it's historical. Yes, it is a fractal reality. Good point. Yeah, see, and that's the thing. Thank you, Velvet. I gave up trying to talk to people about what we know. It's hopeless. They have been completely branded. Yes, exactly. They've been institutionalized. And that's my work here. That's what I'm attempting to do here, is to de-institutionalize people. That's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to yell so loudly from the other side of the fence with common knowledge, with discernment, using, history and, basic psychology. I'm trying to use those as quote unquote yelling across the fence so that some people who are grazing out in the field thinking that they're saved will look up and say, what is that guy saying about the two fish not being history? What is he talking about? Pisces? What is that? What does he mean by that? That's what I'm talking about. Because that's exactly how most people wake up. a question is asked, a statement is made, something is finally understood, and all of a sudden they have this moment of epiphany and they think, wait a minute. There's this sign called Pisces in the sky called, that involves two fish. And you have these people wearing fish heads, and you have them telling stories of fishers of men. And you have them in situations where they're feeding people with fish. Do you think that maybe they're communicating something else here? Do you think it takes a person with awareness to begin to see past what they were told was. They have to see past the illusion that was handed to them. Take initiation. Take some self-responsibility for yourself. Stop handing your brain across the table and ask the question that Parsifal asked. What's going on here? Why is the country sick? Why are they giving people shots that kill them? What's going on here? Why are they teaching them a religion that has been concretized into history when it's supposed to be metaphors? What's happening here? Why are they wearing fish heads on their head? Or why are they using hats in the shape of fish? Why are they doing that? That doesn't make any sense. Why are a million children disappearing every year into thin air? Why is that happening? Why are they letting all of these people invade these societies that have nothing to do with them? Why are they allowing immigration like this and just allowing all these people to move into these countries that destroys their medical system, their food system, that harms their whole religious ontology? These people aren't from this area. They worship an entirely different God. This is division. This is just like what they did when they opened the trade routes. And all of these foreigners came into the situation and it brought about disruption. I'm not saying that's good or bad. I'm saying that's what happens. And they are intending to disrupt the society, just like what happened with the silk trade. There are patterns afoot. It is not as dumb as you have been told it is. There are patterns afoot. And there is some type of force that is showing you these patterns, showing you again and again, my friend. Do you see the contradiction? Do you see it? Do you need to see it more clearly? Do more people need to die? Do more children need to be kidnapped for you to see it? That's the point. To wake you up. To wake you up. Do you really think this situation is going to be cleaned up in a clean way? No, man. It's going to be bloody. What have you been seeing happening? Thousands and thousands and thousands of people dying. It's bloody. More people have died from the shot than all the wars combined. Do you see a pattern? Do you see a bigger principle involved? Because if you don't see it, you're going to become prey. They will prey on you. You have to take initiative. And your vector, the future that you see, is all part of the vector of your mind. So if you think we're headed to doom, we're totally screwed, we're going to be poisoned, and everyone's going to die, guess what's going to happen in your mind? Guess what you're going to see every day? More death. You won't see hope, you'll see more death. And then you will bring it to yourself. You will encourage that energy because we become what we think. I'm not telling you doom and gloom. I'm telling you psychology. We become what we think. And if you think you're going to die, you think the world is over, you think we're headed for tribulation, 90% are going to be gone, you're going to be living in a hole for 10 years, that's exactly where your mindset will stay. In the program they handed you, namely the Catholic Church and government and the CIA. That's what they've handed you. And you're saying, I'll buy it. I'll believe that. I'll believe that. I'll believe that a very specific in-group are the only ones that get to go to heaven and everybody else, F them. They're all going to hell. I'll believe it. I'll buy it. I believe that a tribulation is coming, that most everyone is going to die, and just my friends and everyone who thinks like me are going to be saved. Just how big is your mind? Just how expanded are you if you're waiting for someone to come and give you a hand? Meaning to come and save you. To tell you all the rules, to lay everything out for you, just like you're in kindergarten again. There's no self-responsibility found there, friend. You have to go get it. And when you go get it, that makes you self-responsible because it's painful. And that's part of life. That's part of learning. If we want to change our vector as a society, we must stop believing the lies that they have told us. We have to stop believing we're sinners. You have to stop believing there's a tribulation coming and we're all doomed. You have to stop believing Fauci. You have to stop believing you need shots and vaccines in order to stay healthy. You got to stop believing that stuff, friend. You got to stop believing that. You got to stop believing the God they handed you because it's too small. It's golf ball size. You got to stop believing that garbage. You got to stop believing what the government's telling you. You have to take your own initiative. Honestly. Or you're part of the problem because you're believing what they're telling you. You're buying the crap they're selling you. It's okay. I understand the exhaustion. I'm not exhausted. I'm ready to keep going. Eight o'clock straight up. I got room for one more question. Here we go. Here we go. I want to take this on because I know Lloyd Pye claims that we are flawed, damaged, genetically engineered species who are an ill fit for this planet. Yes, agree with you. We don't have sin, but we are full of flaws. How do we? Okay, this is so freaking brilliant. I love this question. Thank you, Tom. Thank you so much. Okay, there is no question in my mind that we are a genetically altered species. In my opinion, we were brought about through some kind of mammalian species on this planet, and then some type of off-planet species, and we were genetically intermingled. Okay? That's, I think. That's why I think our feet have problems, our back has problems. We have all kinds of chronic issues in society because we have been put into a gravitational system that essentially we did not evolve into or were a part of. Now, this is going to take a minute, so follow me. Because that's the situation, there are inherent flaws to our physical design because of our manipulation. That doesn't make us ill people. That doesn't make us worthless and weak. That's our situation. That's our situation. And it's simply a matter of perceiving the fact that the value of your experience is not your body. The value of your life is the experiences you have that are past the ideas of materialism in your body. That's the value. So if you see yourself as broken, taken, sinful, genetically altered, and bad, guess what your existential is going to be? Doom and gloom, corrupt, screwed, the whole thing. You have to see the value in life as the miracle it is that you're here to experience this. That you are here to experience the dualistic reality. That is where your value stems from. It doesn't come from your origin. Your value is not from your origin. That's why orphans are just as valuable as kids that don't know their parents. That's why I use that example. Just because you're genetically modified does not mean you're a mistake. Does not mean you shouldn't be here. Does not doom you. It doesn't mean that. You are a beautiful expression of nature. And until you see yourself as that, you will remain thinking that you're fallen and that you're some kind of genetic abomination. And that's exactly what they want you thinking because it keeps you small. The bigger picture is realizing, isn't it a miracle that I'm here to experience this? It is a miracle that I have this experience to spend with you, friends and family and people that I know, and have this beautiful experience of love, this beautiful experience of connection, this beautiful experience of being a human being. Recognizing that and standing in awe of that. No matter your origin doesn't matter. It doesn't define you. It doesn't. What defines you is your attitude. What defines you is your perspective. What defines you is your awareness. And the smaller these things are, the smaller you will see yourself and the more failed you will see your life. That's just hard psychology, friend. You must change your perspective. You must. The perspective you have been given has been given to you by scientists who think that you're from lightning, from slime on the side of a lake, from Christians, from the Bible, who says that you're a sinner, you are fallen and separate from God. And there's something wrong with you. And when you believe that, you will act that way. You will act that way. You will think life is an exercise of doom, that you were never supposed to be here, that this is all just a big freaking mistake. And that's what the controllers want you thinking, because then you will act like it. You will act like you're a mistake. You will act like you're a sinner. You will act like you're fallen, and you will worship the God they handed you, their God. That's the hard psychological reality at work here. And our perspective must change. And as long as you see yourself as a fallen genetically or a genetically modified mistake, you will act like that. Guarantee. Guarantee. You must start thinking differently, and only you can do that. That's why there's so many people in the comments here. I'm so thankful for them that keep saying, I am so frustrated. People don't listen to me, and so on and so forth. Exactly. Because they bought the con. And it is our responsibility as the human collective to save ourselves. That is our responsibility. No one can save you. You must save yourself. And that means knowledge, wisdom, awareness, risk, experience. That is what will teach you. Not a book, not some pastor, not some governor, not some doctor. No, no. Hard effort, research, risk, giving yourself to life, living an inspired meaning seeing yourself as past some genetically modified organism. You can't believe how much beauty we bring to the earth, friend. You have been told that we dirty the earth. We don't. We bring beauty to this earth. We bring unbelievable structure and technology to this earth that is to be revered, that is beautiful. You have to see these things that come from the human consciousness, the human creativity. You have to see that as an asset to this planet. The human creativity and the human perspective is an asset of the earth. It's been so misled, and it's been so educated poorly that we act dysfunctionally because we're acting from a space of really, really bad perspectives. We must all learn to act from a space of empowered perspective, of awareness, of consciousness, of the largeness that everything is. That is our role. And because you're capable of that, that's what makes you so freaking beautiful, no matter your origin. No matter your origin, it doesn't matter. Does it matter that an orphan doesn't know their parents? No. Does it lower their value at all? No. No, because you don't know your history and heritage perfectly, because you might have come from some horrific situation in a genetic lab. Does that change your value? No. No. And you have to see that yourself. No one can show it to you. You have to see your genetic modification as a first step. Everybody's got to take it. Beautiful. I'm going to take that first step. I'm going to keep growing. I'm going to keep building on what I got. This is what I got. I'm going to work with it. Do you imagine the attitude of a person who's a paraplegic and just, hell with it. I don't give up. I don't want to live anymore. Look at Johnny Erickson. She changed her life. Change of perspective, man. Change of perspective. You can't see yourself as paralyzed. You can't see yourself as weak. You can't see yourself as a sinner. As long as you see yourself as that, you will be that. Basic psychology. Basic psychology. Learn from a paraplegic who hasn't given up. They're in a pretty rough situation if you think about it. Think of their life. Think of how hard it is. Perspective. And they see the value past their physical body. Isn't that the point of spirituality? That's why the hanged man has the cross on the card, identifying the larger perspective you are and are in. Don't see it as a problem. Don't see the fact that everything is illusion as a problem. Enjoy the experience. Make the most of it. You're in it. Make the most of it. You're in it. You're in it. You can't get out. You're in it. You're a dualistic situation. That's the way it is. And as fake and as illusory as it is, that's the way it is. Do your best in it. Count your many assets and utilize them and go out and do your thing. Spread your light, shine your light, spread your awareness, spread your art all over the world and color the world. That's your job. You may not be able to get them to stop spraying the skies. You may not be able to grow all your own food. You may be in a really rough situation because of some shots you took. You can always change your perspective and grow. You can always change your perspective and see your situation as beautiful because it's your situation. And you can beautify it with your attitude and perspective. Okay, I've said enough. Thank you so much, everyone, for being here. Thank you so much. Thank you. So there's so many questions. I could keep going. I'm just going to stop. I just gotta stop. Thank you, everyone, for being here. A couple of items to remember. There's no show for the next 2 weeks. Okay, I'm out for the next 2 weeks. On the 5th and the 12th, I'll be with my parents celebrating their 70th wedding anniversary. Okay, that's where I'm going to be with my wife. So I'll be there for 2 weeks. And then the 19th, I come back. We'll keep on the astrotheological thing, absolutely. And then the 26th, and then the 2nd of August, we're going to be, let's go and do one final note here. This is where we're going to be, the 2nd of August. Everyone is welcome to join. I'm going to be there. Jenny's going to be there. We have no plans. This isn't a grift. There's nothing that's going to be sold. Everyone, we just show up, have a really nice time together out in nature in some of the most incredible beauty that the world has to offer. Okay, August 2nd. I'm looking forward to it. I can't wait to see you guys. We'll see what happens over the next 2 weeks in the world, and then I'll be back on the 19th. I'm really hoping that everything changes over, because that's going to be some big changes for me. But we'll see what happens. You never know. I love you guys very much. And I think that's it. We'll end the stream here. I love you guys very much. I'll see you in 2 weeks. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for your time. Okay. Bye-bye.